He's busy signing papers, I think.
I'm just trying to get, you really bunch of stuff. You don't.
I got it, thanks, Rob. Yeah, well, you need.
Okay, call to order here on the meeting, 3:01 a.m. p.m. So, invocation, Pledge of Allegiance. Don't mind?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right on. Okay, let's do roll call. Shall we start to the left?
Mary Rose Spalletta, present.
Johnson, present.
Jennifer Rusk, present.
Andy DiGatano, present.
Robert Howell, present. Bill Veach, council liaison, present.
Ed Schutz, environmental staff, present.
Okay. Next
Nancy O'Reilly, public works director, present.
Chelsea Riley, public works director.
Okay. Excellent. So let's approve the previous meeting minutes. A motion?
Move the minutes be approved.
Never got the minutes.
Haven't seen them,
They
Trent?
were
Should
emailed?
have been emailed to you earlier in the month. I can.
You did? Sorry about that.
That's all right. No worries.
Oh, look at that. A copy here, huh? A quick look at that?
Yep.
Anybody know any jokes while she's looking?
The good ones, you're on the record.
That's right. That is right.
That rules me out.
I've been having this reoccurring nightmare. Terrible.
What is that, Steve?
Well, that I died and my wife sells all my fishing gear for what I told her I paid for it.
Oh,
That's it.
okay.
All right.
Approved.
So I move to be accepted.
Second?
Second.
Any objections? So moved. Public comment? Your guests? Okay, well, let's jump into current items. We haven't approved the agenda, have we?
No.
Oh, actually, I moved to, although I don't see any public people here, I was going to add a public comment after our discussion with town lighting, but I don't see any here for public comment, I don't think, so I pull that back. And to drop the sunscreen from the agenda today?
And if we can allow for the gentleman that are present to talk during the fade, the biopolymer item.
Okay, will do. Okay with me. As amended, I make a motion to pass it as amended. The agenda.
So what is it, Steve? We're dropping D and what else?
We're dropping D and we're adding a guest appearance from our friends from Fade Straws.
Okay, and that's going to go where D was?
Where C is right now.
Yeah,
it's already
right
on the
underneath
agenda.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, I got a motion.
Yeah, I move to approve this amended agenda.
Okay. And all in favor?
Yay.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, okay, motion carries. Now, let's jump into it. First item, street consultant presentation. Go sleeping.
Zan, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, so let me couple housekeeping things real quick for the team here. If you do have a question, please speak up. It's a little difficult for them to hear through the system. If not, I will be here to relay the question, or Chad, but I'll turn it over to Suzanne. I'll turn the volume up. They have a quick video, and then I'll turn it back down. Otherwise, your ears are going to be blown away. So,
All right.
there you go.
Super. Thank you very much, Chelsea. So we're on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello. I can't see you, but you can see me, right? Thank you for giving this opportunity to present today. We're here to share some information and request some feedback about the Estero Boulevard lighting project. We've held 2 meetings with a larger stakeholder group, and for both meetings, the content has been pretty high-level general information. In fact, the very first meeting we had for kickoff was like, hi, Fort Myers Beach has started a lighting project. We're the engineers. Let's introduce ourselves. Let's talk about what we'd like to accomplish with this lighting project. And the answers were, in general, to end up with a lighting system that meets all the requirements for people and sea turtles during the entire year. Well, thank you very much. With the second meeting. At the second meeting, there was a lot more discussion about street lighting, the reasons for lighting, and a little bit about Fort Myers Beach accident history. We had conversations about research on the effect of light color on visibility, human health, and on wildlife in particular, of course, nesting sea turtles and their hatchlings. We touched on glare. We discussed Lee County lighting design criteria and the fish and wildlife criteria for lighting. It was about an hour of presentation content, followed by about another hour of discussion. I'd like to start today by playing you the 6-minute video that began the second stakeholder meeting, because it introduces the project, it introduces who we are, it outlines the content that was presented at that stakeholder meeting. But after the video today, we're not going to present the hour information. So in the video that we're about to play, when it says that Rick will discuss why we light, and Ed will discuss accidents, and Joe will talk about the color and the effect of effect on sea turtles, we're not going to do that today. But that outline in the video gives you a sense of what was covered before, and since it was a public meeting, that recording is available. Okay, let me share my screen and play that video and optimize for a video clip. Share screen 1. And Chelsea, are you seeing the black
Yes, ma'am.
video? Okay, I'm going to get started. Here we go. The town of Fort Myers Beach has begun a project to develop plans and specifications for construction of a street lighting system for Estero Boulevard. The Estero Boulevard lighting project limits are from Bowditch Point at the north end, all the way down to the south end of the island at the intersection of Estrelita Drive, about 6 miles overall. If you find Estero Boulevard on Lee County's GIS website called Find My Road, it shows who maintains the road. Roads shown in yellow are maintained by the town of Fort Myers Beach. That includes Estero Boulevard north of the intersection of San Carlos Boulevard. And you can see that all the side streets are also yellow, being maintained by the town. Roads shown in red are state maintained. For example, this portion of San Carlos Boulevard that heads toward the Matanzas Pass Bridge is FDOT maintained. Roads in blue are Lee County roads. The entire length of Estero Boulevard south of San Carlos Boulevard is owned and maintained by Lee County. If you've driven down Estero Boulevard lately, first of all, you've seen a lot of construction. That construction is a major Estero Boulevard improvement project in progress that includes road widening, sidewalks, center turn lanes, drainage, and utility improvements. You can read more about this project at the website refreshfmbeach.com. Driving down Estero Boulevard, you also see that there's existing lighting almost everywhere along the entire length of the island. You might be wondering why there's a need at all for an Estero Boulevard lighting project. The most important reasons we need to look at lighting now are to meet design criteria for safety of the improved Estero Boulevard, update obsolete technology, mitigate accidents, and to meet the needs of nesting sea turtles and their hatchlings. The existing lighting layout was not developed to light the new, wider Estero Boulevard, The layout needs to be reviewed and updated to meet lighting criteria for the new road. The existing lighting system is high-pressure sodium lights, a technology which is becoming obsolete and expensive, being replaced by more energy-efficient LED lights. A very important reason for looking at lighting is the history of nighttime accidents along Estero Boulevard, including bicycle crashes and pedestrian fatalities. While we can't always control people's behaviors, lighting can do a lot to improve safety and reduce the occurrence of nighttime accidents. So far, the goals of improving safety and energy efficiency are common, ordinary goals of any street lighting project. Estero Island has a twist. It is, of course, the sea turtles. Right now, most of the Estero Boulevard lights are turned off, completely off, because they could distract nesting activities and the hatchling's nighttime journey toward the surf. Every inch of the Gulf Side beach could be an attractive spot for a sea turtle nest. Therefore, no part of Estero Boulevard is exempt from turtle considerations for its lighting design. Lights that are turned off, as they are now, are doing nothing for safety or visibility. There are ways we can provide lighting during the nesting season. The design priority of the Estero Boulevard lighting project is to find a solution that provides lighting for safety during the entire year, including turtle and non-turtle seasons. Being turtle safe and people safe are not mutually exclusive. To summarize, the reasons we're looking at lighting now are to address design safety criteria for the improved Estero Boulevard, update the technology to more energy efficient lights, mitigate occurrences of nighttime crashes, and to provide all this while accommodating the important needs of the nesting sea turtles and their hatchlings. Four of us are presenting different aspects of the design considerations for you today. First, Rick Kaufman will talk in general about why we light and how lighting can affect safety, security, and community value. Rick will also touch on the topic of light color and what current research says about the effect of exposure to different colors of artificial light on human health. Ed Kramer will talk about the accident reports and statistics along Estero Boulevard and how attention to lighting in specific areas can improve safety. And Rick will come back and describe the transportation engineering safety design and lighting requirements of Lee County and the town of Fort Myers Beach. Joe Hancock will take a few minutes to talk about how lighting affects sea turtles and the requirements set out by the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission so that any lighting proposed will have the least possible effect on turtle activities. Joe is a scuba diver, so if you see any underwater photos of sea turtles in his presentation, he took them himself. We all have profiles on LinkedIn if you want to know more about our past projects with lighting in turtle-sensitive areas and the lighting industry in general. It's all up there. We've met Katie Kaufman, who's helping us keep everything and everybody organized. I'm Suzanne Lansford, and I'm the engineer of record for this project. This concludes my part of today's presentation. Thank you all so much for being here. Are we back online?
Yep, we're here.
Thank you. Okay. So we were doing a tech check on Monday, technical check with town staff to make sure we could all log in, we could all attend remotely, and you could see us, and the video would play and you could hear it. And we talked about the handouts that you have. Do they have the handouts?
Yes, ma'am.
Chelsea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how we wanted to invite advisory committee thoughts on what you feel are the most important aspects of lighting. And when we finished, or when I thought we were finished, town staff mentioned, they said, you know, these advisory committees, that's you all, will be very eager to hear your recommendations on lighting. By the way, what are your recommendations? So I want to point out that the reason that they asked what our recommendations were at that point is because they don't know. And the reason they don't know is that they being the town staff and council, have been silent on any preferences that they might have about the type of lighting, the color of lighting, source, lighting controls, any aspect of the future Estero Boulevard lighting design. We're counting on us as specialized lighting consultants together with the stakeholders and you, the advisory groups, to come up with the right lighting for the town, and that's why we're here. Our first recommendation is easy. It's not even really a recommendation, it's non-negotiable. A non-negotiable aspect of any new lighting system at Fort Myers Beach, including streetlights. And if there's any debate about this, it wouldn't matter because we have to do it, and it's this. No new outdoor light source shall be visible from any part of the beach, and that includes streetlights. That's strong language, period. No negotiation, but, okay, so what if it's an amber streetlight? Amber light source, is that okay to be seen from the beach? No, not okay. That means that we have to pay attention to the placement and shielding of every light to make sure that no light source is visible from any part of the beach. This is to comply with the Fish and Wildlife lighting guidance and the lighting ordinance of the town of Fort Myers Beach. So let's turn to the handout. We just wanted to clarify some items about the project scope first, what's in and what's out. You can see on the first page, section 2, what's in and what's out of scope. What's in scope, of course, is street lighting design for Estero Boulevard, north of San Carlos, is town-owned, south of there for the rest of the island is county-owned. We're paying special attention to the 45 crosswalks. Side street design, lighting design is not in our scope, but we are being asked to make recommendations for lighting on side streets. What's not in scope is the Times Square area, because that has its own project going on right now. San Carlos Boulevard, which is a DOT road, and all the private streets and communities that are maintained privately. Okay, page 3, light color considerations. When we talk about light color temperature, we're talking about the measurement unit in Kelvin, where 4,000 and 5,000 Kelvin is brighter white, 3,000 Kelvin is a warmer yellow, and much lower temperature, amber red color of specific wavelength range is considered turtle friendly. And I skipped over page 2. Right, page 2, light level considerations. This is the county's design criteria that applies to Estero Boulevard. It's 1 foot candle. That is the criteria that we'll be designing to for public roadways. And page 3 is where we talk about color. So this was a very lively topic at the second stakeholder meeting. And it was lively in part because people have heard about and are concerned about the American Medical Association's 2016 recommendation about limiting light color temperature to 3,000 Kelvin. At the stakeholder meeting, we talked about how that metric that the AMA used to make the correlation to effects on human health does not apply to streetlights because the dose rate and exposure duration from streetlights does not meet the thresholds for melatonin suppression, which is the concern with lighting and disruption of sleep patterns and the health effects from that. But it does not meet thresholds for melatonin suppression, especially compared to other sources like household lighting, TVs, phones, computers, which deliver broad spectrum light right into your eye at an intensity and duration much higher than what you could get from streetlights. So of course we can't just make a rebuttal to the AMA statement like that without citing substantial supporting references, and so we did. But here's the trouble. We cited what we know is the most current body of work in progress, and it being in progress means that it will be available to the public in a few months. So that caused some questions like, why can you cite a reference that we can see? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There are several, and we are preparing written responses to all the stakeholder questions, which will be available to everyone hopefully next week. And it will include NEMA and Illuminating Engineering Society citations responding to the AMA statement. So this is why we don't see human melatonin suppression as a light color consideration for streetlights on page 3 of your handout, but we do have some other considerations there. In areas visible to the beach during nesting season, amber color lights are required. That's not an option, that's something we have to do. Higher color temperatures mean more sky glow, which could distract turtles. Higher color temperature means better visibility, which could reduce crashes. Higher color temperature means better energy efficiency. And here we're talking about higher color temperature LED lights. We've drawn up a real quick example of comparative energy costs Annual energy cost between high pressure sodium, which is what's out there now, 4,000 K, and amber LEDs that are commonly available. And each row in the example delivers about the same amount of lighting for a length of roadway similar to Estero Boulevard. That is to say, if we use the most commonly available wildlife certified amber LED street lights to design to Lee County standards, the energy cost is going to almost double the equivalent high pressure sodium design. But don't worry, we're not going to recommend high pressure sodium. But it's going to be 4 times the energy cost of the more broad spectrum LED lights. So on page 4, here's where we're asking for your written input. On page 4 and 5, we've listed aspects of light color, and we want you to rate from 1 to 10, with 1 being the most important, and each aspect of color temperature. So I don't want to tell you how to tell us what's important. If everything is a 10 or 1 to you, then put a 1. You can rate everything the same, but it would go a lot further to inform us of your thoughts if you would vary the priorities to the ratings. Okay, there's an error on page 5 that I need to apologize for under turtle friendly amber. It's a copy paste error, and I apologize for that. Under turtle friendly amber is obviously not the existing side street color, so you could just please scratch out where it says existing side street color. That's not the case right now for amber. Regarding color, we're talking to a couple of manufacturers to configure a luminaire with dual colors, amber and not amber. The same luminaire, network switchable according to the turtle nesting and non-nesting season, or according to changing physical conditions. It's not new technology, it's a special application of existing technology. And it's not common for it is common for manufacturers to create special configurations of the products for customers like the town, and that's what we're talking about. The challenge with this, of course, is we want the FWC to approve the products, and we want to encourage FPL to approve the products, and we want you to approve the products. So we're asking for some manufacturer samples that we can install in Fort Myers Beach so that you can see it and you can observe the color switching. We haven't yet developed a design for this configuration because we want to be confident of the reasonable time frame for implementation. There's going to come a point where we might decide it's possible, but it might take too long, in which case we wouldn't go that way, but that's what we're thinking about right now. Right now, our recommendation for color is to continue pursuing the dual source option. On page 6, second to last box is about side streets. As we mentioned, detailed lighting design for side streets is outside our scope. But we're being asked to provide recommendations for side streets, and we wouldn't want to do that without input from the advisory committees, and that's what that box is for. At the moment, our general recommendation for side streets, and it's based on our observations of the existing conditions confirmed by some stakeholder feedback we received, is to provide better uniformity light for side streets instead of a patchwork of light and dark areas. Page 6, section 5, lighting design extents. In the lighting design, we have a choice as to how much of the roadway we choose to light. The illustration we have there on page 6, taken from the refreshfmbeach.com website that describes the Estero Boulevard Improvement Project. We put it here because you can use it to visualize what it would look like to provide lighting for example, just the road with the cutoff at the curb, or the road and the sidewalk, or lighting the road and the sidewalk up to the building, which is considered by some to be a security enhancement, sometimes called centerline to keyhole lighting. So we know that lighting both the street and the sidewalk can give drivers more time to notice and respond to pedestrians who might want to step out into the street. I can't tell you how many times that happened to us when we were there doing the audit. We're not seeing a lot of desire to light areas off the street and sidewalk. So our recommendation for lighting extents would be the street and the sidewalk, the cutoff at the back of sidewalk, not lighting property beyond the sidewalk. But we still want you to weigh in on that with your feedback on this form. So we want you to fill in, and if there's anything else you'd like to say on paper, that's what the last page is for. Get them to Chelsea somehow, and she'll make sure that they get scanned and we get the information. That was the end of my presentation content. However, I do have a couple more things. We presented the same information yesterday to the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and it's important to us and important to the town that you receive the same content that we provided to them. So in the interest of that, I'm going to share some of the questions that came up yesterday, and there were two main topics. The first was about dimming. The second was about what our neighboring Florida coastal communities have done about street lighting. The question about dimming started where the committee member wondered if color modulation was possible in a single LED chip, and that led to the idea of having controls reduce light levels at certain times. So let me turn it over to Joe to say a little bit about that and the dimming option. Joe, are you on? Oh, no.
No, I'm here. Me and the buttons are just not getting along as well as we could. Dimming is definitely where we want to go. And if we choose an intelligent lighting solution, the switchable lights, that will be part of the foundation that we build into it. At this moment, right now, Florida Power and Light does not offer dimming. And the main reason is that they do not have any liability protection at the state level. I would assume that the city and the county would also be reluctant at this time for dimming. We do want to be able to set a platform, if possible, that will allow dimming. That is our recommendation, by the way, is to use some intelligent technology.
Thank you. So, okay, another committee member yesterday wondered about the solutions that our neighboring communities have accomplished for lighting. And I think Rick might have some information on that. Rick?
Yes, we got some information from your neighbor on the south there, Bonita Springs. They have awarded a contract for lighting, but they haven't set a date as to when it would be installed, sometime in the future. We're working with the supplier of that to find out the details. And the options are color temperatures that we discussed earlier, as well as the amber. We also looked in Pinellas County and up at Treasure Island. They started a pilot on April 24th of this year, and they installed 8 amber street lights on Gulf Boulevard, and they're letting people see, drive it, and see what they think. And then at the end of a month or two, they'll come back and evaluate what they do in the future along Gulf Boulevard throughout Pinellas County. So those are the 2 communities that we're aware of right now that are actively working on lighting projects, but they have not made any final decisions yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for the committee?
Absolutely.
Okay, please just make sure, again, you speak loud and clear. That way they can clear the question.
I'll crank my volume here too.
Have any questions?
I actually have a few questions. This is Steve Johnson. On page 2, you've got the light level considerations, and you also had this at the stakeholder meeting, the same chart, where your lighting levels are to 1 foot candle. But I've noticed you're using the FDOT Green Book from 2016. Is there a reason you're using that versus the 2020 or the later 2021 Green Book? And to that point also, are you familiar with the wildlife area of concern provision in the Green Book for a community like ours that is in a wildlife area of concern?
2 questions. One is about our 2016 reference. Rick, can you speak to the light levels that the actual light levels in 2016? I think we definitely should have used more current reference, but I don't believe that the light levels themselves have changed that much.
Well, no, but there's been an addition to the Green Book for wildlife areas of concern. and I
Right,
wonder
we're talking
why
about the
you're,
first question about
Uh-huh.
our reference to the 2016 table
correct.
first, and then we'll get to the
Okay,
second
good.
question.
The question to Steve would be, did they change the light levels from 2016 to 2020?
I don't think so, but.
I'm not aware of any change with FDOT.
And then the second question, are we familiar with the wildlife community of concern? Yes, we are definitely familiar with that. What was your question?
So the question is if you're familiar with it and you're actually following the uniform minimum standards according to the Green Book, why is that something you're not pursuing? Is that not I mean, I'm not a roadway lighting expert, but can you pick and choose throughout the Green Book of what you follow and what you don't, or?
Well, the Green Book is for DOT projects, and this is not a DOT project. And so we're not expected, except as far as Lee County requires DOT standards, to follow the DOT Green Book, because that's not a criteria that is in play for our project. However, saying that doesn't mean that we ignore the Green Book. The Green Book is awesome. In fact, we use it for, I think it's fair to say every Florida project that we had, whether it was municipality or Lee County or other counties, they rely heavily on the DOT guidance, and we use it. We are not bound to it just because it's not a DOT project. But that doesn't mean that we ignore it.
Okay, so you may be aware, and I'm sure you've probably already researched the signal projects that are going on the beach.
Yes.
You know, as I read from the 100% submittal lighting document from the county, you know, they're choosing a luminaire that's on the FDOT approved products list for wild sensitive luminaires. Lee County requested that the proposed lighting needs to be wildlife sensitive.
Yes.
Okay, so because it's not an FDOT project, then you don't need to follow the FDOT regulations, correct?
Well, here's the thing. I kind of expected to be further along in the design by this point in time, because for any other lighting design project, we'd select a fixture, we'd apply to the design, and we'd go. And Lee County roadway lighting design, as you pointed out, they selected an available today, really good year-round amber luminaire. And we could proceed with that today. But it's this team that we have for this lighting project. It's Joe, Ed, and Rick. They all have these career-spanning deep connections with product manufacturers. And when we started talking about the real possibility of having a light that turns amber during the season and returns to a more white color out of season for better visibility when you have more people visiting the island, it just seemed to me totally fascinating if it could be done in a reasonable time frame. And if the answer is yes, then we get the benefit of better visibility out of season, but it also has this intangible benefit that we can't really measure. And that's what appeals to me more than anything. Okay, you got the changing light color communicates to every resident and every visitor the presence of turtle season. We all know when turtle season is, but when those lights change, it creates an awareness and it starts conversations. And I think it would be a beautiful representation of what's important to Fort Myers Beach. Definitely worth taking a little extra time to see if that could be possible. And it would absolutely accommodate the wildlife concerns during the season. So that's why our recommendation is for that.
May I say something to that?
Of course.
Robert Howell. So I love the idea of having something tangible where something's changing. We do have like a set turtle season that's on the books, but what's really happening in the natural world is these turtles are getting in more and more warm waters, and they're starting to come out when it's not within that set time frame. And I'm worried if we box ourselves into saying the lights come on first day of turtle season and last day of turtle season, as the environment's changing, we might have turtles coming up earlier or staying on the beach later, and they'd still be affected by the changing lights.
That's the beauty of network controls, because we can make those changes and accommodate them as we see them happening.
Suzanne, this is Mary Rose Follett. I'm the committee also, and I just am wondering if you can clarify something for me. It seems to me at first we were talking about two different lights. An amber that we would use during turtle season, and then another set when it's not turtle season. But now you've changed and you're saying we can accomplish all of that with one light. Is that what you're saying? Yes? Am I understanding that? But I don't understand why, if the amber is sufficient, we can't just keep sufficient 12 months out of the year. Why do we need to change to these glary white lights?
Well,
The hope is they're not going to be glaring.
Well, all of our experience, they are, and everything I've seen online says that these white lights with their blue spectrum they contribute to accidents rather than preventing them, because they cause blindness from people looking at that glare. And I can't see any strong argument for paying for two sets of lights when one of them is totally wrong for half of the year. We'd have to turn it off anyway. Why not just pay for one set of lights that's going to be grand all year round? Can you tell me what's wrong with my reasoning?
Go ahead, Suzanne, and reply.
We are proposing one light that's good all year round, and it changes according to the conditions that are most appropriate for the season. As you know, there are no doubt a lot of terrible lighting designs out there that are glary and cause people problems with vision. That is not our goal. It's not our goal to create a glare problem, and part of responsible lighting design criteria is to minimize glare and to have it not be a factor when you're driving down the street.
Suzanne, may I ask a question? Jennifer Russ?
We try to light to Green Book standards, or
We can't understand.
Suzanne, we can't understand him on our end.
red uniform
Joe, you're cutting in and out.
with the amber light, significantly more light.
I'm going to mute him.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Suzanne, Jennifer Russ, committee member. I have a few questions of my own. Are there state regulations, laws, county or town ordinances that specify street lighting, brightness, luminary, wavelength, or Kelvin nanometer pertaining to pedestrian and vehicle safety?
I did not hear that. I'm really sorry. Could you repeat that?
Are there state regulations, laws, county or town ordinances that specify street lighting, brightness, luminary, wavelength, or Kelvin pertaining to pedestrian and vehicle safety?
But definitely brightness. That's what this table represents. We're not seeing a lot of guidance on color.
You're saying is that this right here comes out? Who puts this out? Is this a regulation, a state regulation, or law, or county or town ordinance?
Lighting design criteria that is developed by national standards, by AASHTO, by the Illuminating Engineering Society, and it's used pretty much nationwide by the federal government and state governments, municipalities, and counties. Is that the best answer, Rick? Did I?
Let me just add this, that anytime the state gets federal grants through the Federal Highway Administration, the lighting levels for the design must comply with national standards like RP8, IS document, or the AASHTO Lighting Design Guide, or the Federal Highway Administration Lighting Design Guide. The last two that I mentioned get their values from the IS RP8 document. So the bottom line is that if you're using federal money on a project, it has to comply with RP8 requirements.
Okay, I've got, this is Steve, again, with a kind of a quick question. So, I mean, the way I'm looking at it is we're stakeholders here. We're the Marine Resource Task Force. We're responsible for looking after sort of the marine environment and the health of our residents and advise the town council. But what I'm understanding you to say is that that your recommendation is that the Blue Ridge White Light is better, I think from a qualitative standpoint, really, versus a quantitative standpoint, because amber light is safe. Would you confirm that you can actually build, design and build a system using amber, narrow band, amber LEDs, and it would be a safe system?
Our recommendation for the broader spectrum for safety is based on research that's happening where researchers take a look at the color of light and they look at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 Kelvin in that range. And the best visibility, which means the shortest, the best response time before responding to what would otherwise be a collision, happens at 4,000 Kelvin. And because that research focuses on that area for safety, that's why we think it's better for human safety. I asked the researchers after our last stakeholder meeting, researchers who do this visibility research, is there any research that you can point to about the visibility under the amber color? And they basically said, well, not that specifically, but our range is more in this, like 2,200 to 6,000 Kelvin range, and it was narrowed down for best visibility 4,000 Kelvin. That's why that is even on the radar for us.
That was the San Jose study that you showed us at the stakeholder meeting, essentially, the data?
There are several. I think we had some data from San Jose.
That was, I mean, that didn't even include amber light did not include
right.
amber
well,
light.
Well, I mean, because it doesn't include amber light because when you're talking about visibility, you need some color contrast to be able to see certain colors, as Joe mentioned in one of his slides at the stakeholder meeting.
Correct.
You can't see certain colors, and so they don't pop out, and so that's why the broader spectrum is better for visibility. We were talking about better visibility of human beings in their cars looking at the scene ahead. They have a better chance of responding to something because of the way rods and cones work. I don't want to say because of the way rods and cones work, I overspoke that, but that's the reason. That's why they're seeing the better result at 4,000 Kelvin. Now, there's always a question, 4,000 Kelvin is warmer than 5,000 Kelvin. So I asked the researcher, well, how come we're not saying that 5,000 is better because that has, theoretically better color rendition, better color visibility. And so why aren't we seeing a better visibility response in that spectrum? And he said, I don't know. The data just says 4,000 Kelvin. Those are the best results. And so that's why our recommendation is centered on that.
One thing to add to that is that the color of moonlight is 4107 Kelvin. So the human visual system has adapted to that color temperature over thousands of years. And it's kind of the range of best visibility for people to see. The other thing is, if we try to come up with a color temperature for amber, it would be less than 1,000. So if we look at research done on HPS at 2,200, we see that the visibility is not as good at 2,200 as it is at 4,000. We can assume that it's going to be less in amber than it would be at 2,200 Kelvin.
Correct?
Yes.
Can you also, just in case my signal's still bad, can you talk about the number of fixtures required for amber, lumens per watt, power costs, and the project costs?
Yes, I think Suzanne said that was it page 2 or 3, Suzanne, on the handout?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you turn to page 3 in your handout, you can get a kind of a picture in that one chart that the difference it requires substantially more luminaires, because typically amber lighting is, the efficacy is around 35 lumens per watt. And with the 4,000 Kelvin LED, it's up around, 140 to 160 lumens per watt. So there's certainly less energy used, and that takes with it, the power generation requirements being less, lower greenhouse gas emissions and so on, as far as environmental concerns. So the 4,000 Kelvin LED ecologically is more is climate friendly, whereas color-wise, it's not as desirable for turtles. That's why the shielding is so important and the non-visibility from the beach.
Well, I mean, I think we recognize that, the moon is maybe a 4,000 Kelvin color, but I mean, would you agree that artificial light is considered pollution?
Not all artificial light is pollution. And no, sir. A lot of it is very helpful. And we talked about at the stakeholders meeting how artificial light at night improves safety and security, promotes commercial interest, promotes the use of public facilities during the nighttime hours. There are a lot of advantages to it. At the same time, we believe in being responsible with it and, not having any direct uplight from the luminaires and dealing with glare and other things associated with lighting at night. So we try to address those and minimize any adverse effects at the same time while promoting general safety and security of the population.
Actually, artificial light by definition is a pollution because it causes adverse effects to the environment that are not naturally occurring. So to that point, I think is there's a number of things I think we're here at the Marine Resource Task Force, and one of those would be sky glow. And this needs to be positioned not necessarily as turtles versus white light. This is about the natural environment, because as you well know, light affects more than just turtles, including humans. I mean, you spent 25% of the slides during the stakeholder meeting reinforcing the upcoming study from the Virginia Tech Transportation Group. It actually affects a lot of different organisms. I mean, we can go through the list, as you know. Anything it affects mating, it affects foraging, it affects a number of different things in the environment. And as you know, it's a web that we live in. And maybe I can point also a little bit to our branding. As consultants, I would have hoped that maybe you considered our branding a little bit, and because you do talk about tourism a little bit, and I know that you hang your hat on the fact that lighting results in 70% more pedestrian people at night. And again, I haven't seen that study, but also in that same paragraph, it talked about how there's just no research or no proof that it actually leads to economic gain. My question to you is the Fmb branding is, if you look at our logo, it's a palm tree, it's dolphins, turtle and seahorses were considered while we were going through our identity, and it's got a sunset colored sand dollar. The colors are aquamarine and sunset orange is the color palette that we use. There's no slot machines, there's no shopping malls, there's no buildings in our logo. It's a town ritual here to watch the sunset from neighborhood accesses. People pay money to sit and watch it from restaurants. It's really a celebration of natural light. And my estimations, if we were to put in, based on your table of that we're talking about here on table 3, the sky glow would increase by a matter of at least 4 times. I know you can probably calculate that quite quickly off the top of your head. roughly 4 times. I mean, going lumen for lumen between high pressure sodium and 4,000 Kelvin is about a 2.5 to 2.7 time increase in sky glow. You confirm that? And then also adding more light to the beach, correct? You're going from 113 high pressure sodium lights to 175 in that particular description. So based on just those 2 sets of numbers, you can do a back of the envelope calculation on the increase of sky glow. And you're the expert, so that's why I'm asking you, not stating it, and asking you if you can confirm that, what the impact would be on sky glow.
Let me start, and then I'll turn it over to Rick for more details. But one of the big problems with HID, high impulse discharge, which sodium falls under, is you're creating a sphere of the light. And there's reflectors and refractors, but there's very little control of that light. For LED is very controllable. You can use a lot less light and direct it a lot better. I don't believe you can go directly from sodium to LED and do a calculation, a quick calculation on sky glow without knowing the bug ratings of the lights, without knowing the pattern. I don't think that's valid. Rick?
That's correct. Actually, the IS has formed a special task group to evaluate the bug rating system. That's in document TM15. And I was selected to represent the roadway lighting committee. And we had our first meeting last Monday. And the discussion quickly went to the G rating. And it's ironic that the original people that put the bug rating together said we never intended for the G rating to be used as a metric, which is supposed to be a way to classify the zonal location where the light is emitted from the luminaire. So they were, people that originated were saying, we hope you guys can fix it. And so we had a lot of discussion about sky glow and what causes it and where does that come from. There's several ways. Some is directly from the luminaire, in which case we definitely plan not to use anything that had any uplight whatsoever. The other was sometimes luminaires dump light directly underneath the luminaire. And what goes down comes right back up. It's reflected from the pavement or the grass or the sand, and then that bounces back upward. And then there's light that goes out at higher angles, strikes the pavement. Some of that, a small percentage of that, usually 7 or 8%, is reflected based on the angle of incidence, somewhat upward, but it never gets back up into the sky. It's attenuated and then it is blocked by obstructions. So if you choose a luminaire, it has more of the, say, vertical angle of 60 to 80 degrees. That light is most useful for roadway lighting, and it's also absorbed or something before it gets to the sky. So there is a way to design to minimize sky glow, and that's one thing we would do. And that's just part of what we call our responsible lighting plan. So one of our objectives is to minimize sky glow through intelligent design. Then when we can use shielding where we need to keep the light off the beach.
How are you going to use the exercise data that you get from the advisory committees, and how are you going to analyze and implement the information from the committees to give you?
How are you using data provided or the input provided by the committee? What form or how is that going to help your recommendation?
Mostly I'm looking for a trend of preferences. And especially, I'm looking for surprises like, gee, I didn't know that there were so many people concerned about this and that. We already know that we need to protect the sea turtles. We already know that we want to prevent accidents if we can do that using lighting. We know that we need to reduce glare, and we know that we need to create a solution that does not irritate people, cause glare, disability, and pollution. And what we're looking for is your feedback on what you think is important for those areas where we do have some ability to vary our design. And color is one of those areas. The extents is another one of those areas. We don't really have a whole lot of autonomy for varying the light level, just because there are some current concerns with, what if the town on purpose creates a design that has less light than has been recommended by the federal government and counties and states, and then somebody has an accident there is a responsibility for us to not cause that situation. So what I'm going to do is, we're responding to the stakeholder comments and questions now. We want to respond to your questions and the questions from the Public Safety Committee, Advisory Committee from yesterday. And we want it to be a two-way process where, you tell us what you want, it informs our decision. We provide an explanation or feedback or some more information and give it back to you. And that doesn't need to be the end of the conversation. We want you to respond to it. I know that there were a lot of things said today, multi-part questions that we didn't answer all the aspects. I know Marianne said a lot, and Steve, you had a lot about how light affects different organisms. You talked about branding and tourism and the Fort Myers Beach celebration of natural light, which is beautiful. I love that. So make sure that's why we have these forms, because it's just not possible for us to capture all your concerns right now, and we would be here forever if we did. So we want you to tell us.
Jennifer Rusk, I have to say, when I got the exercise, I was confused with the questioning. And if I may ask you, why is it that you are asking us in this exercise how important it is that this is this in turtle season? I find it inappropriate to ask advisory committees to comment or give an opinion on a state regulated town ordinance that's already in place. So I was confused, and I actually did NA, not applicable. So if you don't mind explaining to me.
That's what we want to see, because we know that there are some people who don't have that awareness of how important those things are, and so it would give us an opportunity to respond and say that it is.
Any final questions? So, Jennifer, that was a great point. Please provide those types of comments. And
Right here for you.
So what I'll just tell you guys what the Public Safety Committee is doing is they took this home. We're gonna edit, make comments, and then they were gonna call a special meeting back and provide one unified voice. Suzanne, we're getting some serious.
All of us mute.
Please. Thank you. So what they're doing. Choose to fill it out individually and supply it to either Chad or myself. I will pass that along to Suzanne and her team. A special meeting. The plan is for them to actually be here in person on June 7th and patient. Roger stepped into the Public Safety Committee yesterday and kind of explained that we're trying to funnel down the team to funnel down options, fill in their research, contract is up September 30th of the year. Council is taking the summer off, so that gives the team time to do some due diligence and some homework. We'll come back after the summer with but how this committee really collectively, really up to you. I will take whatever input that.
Yeah, just one quick question, Mr. Mann, or any about the ability to adjust the light level, but so you have a system where it's half and half, you know, amber during sea turtle season and the 4,000 during people season. Is the amber going to be, I would assume that the amber is going to be less bright than the 4,000 Kelvin, so is the sea turtle season going to be at the minimum, and then people season is going to be extra bright, or is that where the attenuation comes in with maybe some intelligent lighting, or you understand what I'm trying to get at? The white light provides more light for the same number of luminaires. Obviously, the amber must be less bright, or is one extra bright, or is one extra?
Actually, we can design them, so they're completely different chipsets. They have their own power supplies internally. We can determine the light levels necessary independently of each other.
Gotcha. I think so.
Will you write that on the, will you repeat that question on the form?
Doesn't answer
So
my
we can
question.
make sure that we answer it.
They don't answer the
completely.
question.
Will do.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Any final questions, comments, concerns? If you have additional comments or
One more
questions. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah, this is Bill Beach. I'm actually a town council here that's a liaison for MRF. Just a couple of quick questions, and one is, has your group ever designed a system for dark sky compatibility? The dark sky.
System for what?
Dark sky compatibility.
You know, there's standards for the to be dark sky compatible, and I'm just wondering if you've ever had any experience with designing for that.
Yes. I've done several projects up in Massachusetts, and we used 1,000 Kelvin lighting on the major streets and 3,000 on all the residential streets. And the people there, both in towns, really liked it.
Another question is, do you have any kind of quantitative number for how color affects visibility? Like if you go from 4,000 to 3,000, is there a certain percentage or a distance, a change in distance when people react based on that color?
Yes, that is available, and that's part of our response to the stakeholder questions about that.
Okay, so if you have additional questions, or if you have a question about a question on the handout, please email me and I will pass that along to the concerned. Best to get you a response ASAP, that way we can. And I am available via email if you need. I'll pass it along to them. On getting you all responses. And do you have any final comments?
No final comments, except to thank you for this the time today to present this information to you. We appreciate your feedback.
Don't you also have one more question, maybe,
Sorry,
so that we can?
Steve's got one more question.
I do as well.
One more question, and that is, just so we know as a group, as we discuss this after, so the turtle season solution, is that entirely an amber solution as you described, or is it only, let me let you answer that. It's strictly an amber.
Is turtle season solution strictly an amber solution? Oh, you're muted, hold on.
Sorry. I just muted myself to answer that question. Not necessarily. There are places like crosswalks and places that are completely shielded by buildings from beaches that we may be appropriate for non-amber during the season.
And that's a road light, you're saying, a street light?
Like,
I have one more question, and actually, just to, so I can assist in answering these questions properly. On page 7 of 8, the top it says roadway only, lowest cost, least lighting, least pedestrian visibility. And then when you go down, it says roadway plus sidewalks, lowest cost, least lighting. Is that a typo? Because
that
wouldn't
is
it?
so wrong.
Okay.
You caught a glaring error, to use it for pun. That last row on page 7, where it says roadway plus sidewalks plus the rounds, not buildings, those first 2 bullets should not be there. I really apologize for that.
Should it be there, or should it be highest cost, most
should not be
lighting?
there.
Okay,
Because obviously, if you're going to provide more lighting, there's going to be more cost.
correct.
It's not the lowest cost.
Did our homework.
Good
job.
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts and teamwork. I really appreciate it. I know the committees appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, and then we'll be in touch, and I'll try to get their feedback as soon as possible and get that to you all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Again, if how you determine chattel, let me know if you do it collectively as a advisory committee, or if you want to provide them individually. I'm open to either. Feedback is feedback in our eyes. So I will pass whatever information that I'm given along to the consultant. Again, if you don't have my card, grab it on the way out. Email me, call me. I will do my best to facilitate any questions, comments, concerns you have to the consultant. So thank you all for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Chad.
Also, a quick question. You had, the public safety actually is going to reconvene on this, correct? In
Yes, sir.
a special meeting, and when will that be?
Next Tuesday, I believe, is
Tuesday,
At
because
9 a.m.
originally they had hoped to collect all these by the end of this week, correct? So we're just extending it for a couple days for public safety. So if we were to reschedule sometime next week, that would be
Yeah, so they
satisfactory?
did, so public safety did it their meeting, they met on Tuesday, so we have to get the agenda out a week in advance, so we got the agenda out on Tuesday. So for you all, you get at least a week notice, so what's today, Wednesday?
It'd be by either next Wednesday.
For you guys? That's clerk's office. Typically, we need to get the agendas out a week in advance. Jason's shaking his head back there. Both. Oh, but if you guys want to, I will tell the consultant that you're going to have a special meeting next week, and we'll wait to give the feedback then.
Okay, that's an option then, right? Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you all.
To talk about. A lot to talk about.
Is there anything decided for sure right now for like?
Nope.
Well, they have to follow the guidelines
Yeah,
for sea turtle season.
Yeah, and something is gonna happen. There's
Yeah.
gonna be new
Well, if
lights.
there's white light, then they're not, period. I mean, that's including it in the design of the road light. It's just not gonna happen.
No,
We have to discuss that.
And crosswalks. Yeah.
right, because you can see them from the beach.
There
Not a darn thing on this island you can't see from the beach.
Everything reflects off the clouds.
light scatters 10 times more than red light. So he even talked about that in public safety, so.
If they're big, they kept pushing on safety. If the big thing is safety around crosswalks and stuff, why not have some type of motion sensitive lights? I know it's constant, but
That's something we can talk about, I suppose, but. All right, so where are we at here?
I filled mine out, and I don't know if you want to go over the whole thing, or
I don't know, should we have these other people have their presentations?
Oh,
and
we
then
have a
talk maybe?
decision to make here. We have an absolutely packed agenda.
Right,
And I think this deserves a bunch of time, so we can either ignore everything else and do this, or we can meet, no, except for the straws, or meet next week. Meeting next week.
I would like to meet next week so I can do more studying, more research on my own time. It was kind of just
Is anybody not available? Are you available next week?
Yeah,
It'd have
sure,
to
I
be
can do
Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday. Are you suggesting we have it with public safety?
So it sounds like they need the agenda out, so I would need to crank out an agenda very quickly, which would just be this, so that wouldn't be a difficulty, so we could have it next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Sounds good
At
to
the
me.
same time at 3 o'clock? Is that best for you, Chad?
I would need to double check,
Room availability?
right?
As the master of the calendar.
I can
Right.
double check and be right back. If
Okay.
I want to carry on.
Would everybody be available to do it?
Yes.
Okay, so. If we need a motion for that?
Good idea.
Can
If we, meeting, is it called a special meeting? Next
Special
Wednesday,
meeting,
which
sure.
will be the 26th?
I don't even know what date it is today.
I think it'd be really interesting to get a studies as she talks about.
I've looked over them. I have a lot of comments. This is not the right venue to just talk about them, but they're basically all dismissive of other viewpoints. The construction of this in general is very dismissive of other viewpoints.
Agreed.
I got the impression they're fairly old school. You know, when I talked about the dark sky, I think the dark sky specifications is nothing over 3,000.
Right,
I didn't
27.
mean to be rude, but hot off the publication list, April 1st, 2021. It's about environmental and behavioral modeling of mitigating light pollution. So the intent of the study was to study what produces light pollution, how could light be reduced, and are lighting design companies helping in light pollution mitigation. And what the conclusion they found was that the results show that the lighting professionals considered the main responsible factor for light pollution.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Believe
just
it.
classic. It's like testing, right? Like surgeons, what are the answers? Surgery, right? If you're a light person, what? Throw more light at it, illuminate it. In dark, they're out of a job, I suppose. But I mean, that's
If your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
it's a little little tongue in cheek there. But again, I mean, that's
So is this?
so there's a lot to actually discuss.
Upcoming meeting, is this to discuss going over this exercise?
That's what this is all about the influence, about what Murph's ultimate recommendation is
'Cause
going to be
I have
too.
lots of questions.
Because we're going to fill this out, but also I think we would like to make a recommendation to town council as a result of that meeting.
Well, I don't want it to seem like I have a closed mind, but I think we need to go with the amber lights. Like all of these numbers and all of this confusion, the bottom line is, if it's good enough during turtle season, why isn't it good enough all year?
Have they researched other, we're not the only barrier island in Florida. I'm sure there's other barrier islands that have come up against, doing their lighting.
One of my concerns is they want to make a new product. They want to, through this,
Right.
they want to develop a new product with a lighting company. And one of the problems with that is they're going to have to get FPL approval, or the FWC approval, FPL approval. Hell, that's 6 months to just approve whether it's weather resistant. This is now you're kicking the can down even further, a year, 2 years. There's an opportunity cost too. How many more people are going to get injured on this bad lighting? So, that's a consideration as well when there's actually a solution that's available to us today. So, go ahead, Bill.
I was gonna say, I do find it, when they talked about the dual light, and I'm not, of course, a fan of white lights, but the idea of having a overt indicator that, yes, we're turtle season.
Right.
The whole island kind of goes dark, if you will. There's some benefit for that. But I think what you're talking about, though, I would really like to know how much safety do we give up by being amber? Because that's a
Right.
really key.
Exactly.
The public safety committee is going to say one thing, you're going to say the other, but we need to quantify
And
that.
answer that. I mean,
to
basically,
understand
it's
what that-
qualitative. It's going to be nicer.
Has there
It's
been
going
a,
to be brighter. You're going to be able to see it better, quote unquote, nicer.
has
Maybe
there
not
been a
better.
study saying whether or not amber lighting is a safety issue?
But that's
It's legal. I mean, the FDOT, they have wildlife area concerns. Our county and our state are putting up amber lights. And that's 365 days a year.
And
You go over an amber bridge onto an amber, bottom, then you take a left at Crescent, and that's an amber bridge. The town is putting a signal project at Old St. Carlos, and that's going to have an amber light associated with that signal as well.
The other thing too, they talked about, again, my understanding too, in one of the studies, is that you don't want to change colors.
Of course,
Right.
yeah,
Driving
dark
down the road.
adaptation is the worst
Right.
thing you can do.
Going along to a crosswalk and all of a sudden you're at 4,000 K and then you're back to amber, the eyes aren't, they're not gonna adjust very quickly. After you leave that white light, you're gonna have some blindness.
And they're talking about mixing the light too during turtle season. They're actually gonna have white roadway lighting in certain places. And one of the issues there is they discuss about seeing the visible source from the beach. Which is, but it's also, if you look at our own town, ordinance, it's the accumulated light. It could be indirect, it can be, doesn't matter where it comes from, it's visible as a sky glow against our ordinance. So, anyway, I don't think, I mean, if we're
And-
gonna continue with our agenda, we can have to,
The comment that Suzanne made about the existing blue light spectrum in streetlights not affecting people negatively is absolutely wrong. Everything I've read says that any study shows that people are very sensitive to those blue lights, and it interferes with sleep patterns, which interferes with every bodily function. I don't know what study she's quoting, but I would certainly
That's it.
disagree.
That's something also to ask them.
Yeah.
Give us a link to your studies.
yeah, we've looked at a couple of them, and I mean, that's where they get this sense of security, this, some of this security stuff, which they didn't harp on here about light increasing crime. I mean, most of them is that it doesn't have an impact on crime, increased lighting.
If anything, it's the amber light that
Believe it
makes
or
it
not.
safer.
Yeah.
Well, as far as safety goes, we're getting the nice bicycle lanes going up and down the island now. And as far as people jumping across the street, when they're drinking and stuff, that the lighting's not gonna matter for that.
Right, exactly. You're stepping out outside of a crosswalk in the street. I mean, holy
If you're
crap.
spending money for safety.
People that
I
are
don't
driving
know if
down the
it's
street
better
are half in the bag too. Come on.
Those flashing lights on the crosswalks.
Good Lord.
I think they're very effective. They get your attention, that someone pushed that button.
Right.
You're alert, there's someone in the air.
And that's what I was saying about motion sensitive. Like, I've even seen cities where they have LED strips that go across when people are walking on them, just to show something
Or when
41
someone
has
pushes
that.
the button,
Yeah.
you get more light, and then it goes off.
right away.
So, Mr. Chairman, the room is available next Wednesday before 2 and after 3. We could have it anytime, before, depending on how long of a discussion you want.
So the 3 to 4 o'clock hour is booked. What you say?
It's available after 3.
After 3. But as early as 2. So I just heard
2
you
is
say-
booked.
Oh, 2 is booked, so 3 o'clock. So our normal time.
Right, sounds
Normal
good.
time, or if y'all wanted to do a morning session. it's
Unless
up
you
to
wanted to
y'all.
have it earlier.
We taking class right now? Mass,
What time is it done, Wendy?
it's done at 12.
You could do it 3.
Do the 3. You could do a 2.
Okay. We can't do it
3,
2, though, it's
right.
booked.
3.
3 o'clock
Make a
next
motion
Wednesday.
that we reconvene on the lighting study survey. Hold next week, Wednesday, which is the
26th.
26th at 3 o'clock PM.
I'll second that.
Objections? Okay, motion carries. Right on. So let's go back to the agenda here, shall we? And we move for the sake of our guests, straws forward. Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah,
do it.
they are looking for some feedback. He's okay with that.
Sure. Why don't we draw an agreement? We'll have the straw
Straw what?
folks here that they had brought us some information, have some
You're gonna talk to us?
additional
They're gonna talk to us. Yep.
additional information. They're just not here. They're good-looking guys. Right.
Here to learn about lights.
Exactly.
That's pretty interesting.
Oh, man, you have no idea. Okay.
Makes some excellent shields for lights.
Now they're all over the beach. I'm seeing them. Look at that.
Just introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, my name is Brad Laporte, CEO of WinCup, and one of the inventors of Fade Straws. First of all, thank you for seeing us again. Out of the last town hall, or out of the last meeting, it talked, either I was gonna have to go eat a bunch of straws and prove that these were not hazardous to eat for either marine life, fowl, or mammals, or we're going to go find a bunch of studies and conduct a bunch of studies to prove that out. Which you guys have in front of you, and we'll go through the presentation, and then Chad will give you a thumb drive in the sense of environmental preservation. Instead of printing out 12 of these suckers, we decided to go the electronic version for just to peruse. So, before we get started, I did want to kind of point out, all of you got samples of Fade. Apologize, last time I didn't have a bunch of samples. All of you guys should have samples. If you don't, we can give up more samples. And then in front of Steve is a sampling of what exists on your island today. There's a mixture of paper straws, polypropylene straws, as well as paper straws actually covered in a polypropylene cover. So unintended consequences of creating an ordinance that only allows paper straws, I believe, is forcing your proprietors to, one, find a different performing straw in polypropylene. I'll go into some other challenges around that I'm sure was not the intended direction of the ordinance. With thing I can clear up before we get started?
Slurpee straw there.
There's a Slurpee straw. I don't want to tell on where I got those, but pretty self-explanatory.
7 to 11 of them on the
It rhymes with heaven. So, if you all have a handout, WinCup Fade handout in front of you, we'll start on page 1, and we'll go into as much detail of this as you want. I'll stay at high level. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
You're such a bad boy.
Apologize.
I have boating accidents. Yeah.
We'll kind of go through the high level stuff, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail. I won't go into the detail that exists in your thumb drive or this booklet, but that includes all of the actual studies across the world on PHA for various ingestion, inhalation, as well as bioimplant studies around PHA, drug delivery, etc. So, what you're going to see, or you asked us the question, if while this is degrading, if something was to happen to eat it, is it safe? So, right here is a list of all the studies with all of the marine life, as well as piglets and cows. You can see yellow croakerfish, sea bass, shrimp, rainbow trout, mitten crab, prawn, and tilapia from the marine side. All these studies have been complete, as well as piglets and cows on land. And what it actually is showing, that PHA is actually not bad, actually is good. And the studies will show you that not only is it not harmful, it actually has proven to be a weight gain, as well as an increased lipid metabolism, and as well as improved digestive enzymes and immune systems, and improved gut microbiota.
You're not claiming that using the straw will make.
It's actually interesting is if you, so for example, the sow, the weaned piglet study, and the croakerfish, they started to feed PHA pellets in 1%, 2%, 3% increases of their regular diet, and those piglets, as well as croakerfish, actually gained more weight and showed greater growth than the actual studies without PHA.
So they were supplemental. Control got a pellet a day. They got a pellet plus 1 or 2, 3% of
That's right.
Fade in there. Okay, gotcha.
So, and we'll go a little bit deeper into the studies. The other side, what I'm on page 3 that I'll present to you, we talked last time about the harmful effects of polyvinyl acetate, which is the glue found in paper straws. I'll go into a little bit more detail of the information that we found in that. That's page 3. There are the New Jersey bunch of information on here on MSDS sheets about harmful from, if swallowed, inhalation will cause nose and throat coughing and shortness of breath. impact the heart, nervous system, and liver, which is PV. So if you've all heard when you were a kid that it's okay to eat Elmer's glue, these studies show that it is not okay to eat. PVAs also contain amounts of acetylide, which is not a known human carcinogen, but a known animal carcinogen. And then, ever used polyvinyl acetate to glue blocks of wood together, you will notice that those last a very long time. In their combined structure, they'll last many, many years in a marine environment. And on page 5, page 4, one of the things that we did not know about, but when we were doing this study on paper straws, there was a big study big result that came out of the University of Florida with studies of 38 biodegradable paper straws that were analyzed. 36 of them contained PFAS. PFAS is a very harmful chemical used in paper manufacturing. Again, a non-intended consequence of ordinance of moving to a paper straw. And that was through Dr. John Bout. Pause there for a second. Any questions on kind of the summary? Going into the detail on page 5, you can see the results of the fish with PHBs and PHAs. PHB is a family of PHA, both created from fatty acids from bacteria. And actually, weaned piglets actually also showed benefits of growth during this. So this is not sexy and super exciting information, but I wanted to provide, obviously, as much information as I possibly could to you guys.
Better than lighting.
Better than lighting, and it avoided me from having to eat a bunch. So this in the next page is page 6, is the actual where the actually is a feed additive. Actually using PHAs as a feed additive in fish and piglets. This is actually conducted in Beijing, China. I won't go through all of, I know it's boring to go line by line in some of this information. I'll hit the highlights for you guys. Page 7 includes the objectives and results of that study. This is the main study, obviously, from a piglet's perspective is in fish. Read how the PHB is not harmful to yellow croakers and sensitive weaned piglets. That study was completed and finished. You can see after 6 weeks, no apparent abnormalities were observed or visceral organs of piglets, and the variance of Fiscari index of organs between groups is not significant. It's clear that the PHB has no effect on any organ development in page 8 is the biomedical applications. So in the biomedical arena right now in the industry, PHAs are actually being used instead of items that remain in your body. So PHAs will actually evolve or eventually go away in your body, and these studies against or for the use of PHA for internal sutures, screws, plates, meshes, skin grafts, all of those internal to human actual biomedical applications. Page 9 is a table depicting those. PHA was used during for delivery of hepatitis C vaccines. PHA is used for protein purifications, microbeads, bioimaging. So they'll use PHA to carry the material that'll show up in a bioimaging screen, like a PET scan for cancer, those type of things. PHAs are now being used as that delivery system internal to the blood. This was probably a really interesting study that I found personally interesting. Okay. Page 10 is the continue side of that biomedical application study for drug carriers. The administration of, you think about capsules. Capsules carrying drugs in a medical environment, treatment, are now being made from PHA. 11 is additional medical devices, rivets, tacks, screws, staple stents, mesh, etc. is classified as safe for internal human body. So that's kind of the cliff notes of all of the information that you guys had asked us to come back with. You know, if they eats this ahead of time, is it safe? There you go. It's very safe.
Okay.
Page 12 is the study on polyvinyl acetate. See that vinyl acetate or polyvinyl acetate is built from vinyl acetate. Vinyl acetate is developed from ethylene and oxygen. Could also be developed from natural gas, the base polymer there. They're linked to long branch polymers, also known as polyvinyl acetate. Polyvinyl acetate is not designed to break down, so although the paper may go away in the marine environment, polyvinyl acetate will take much longer to go away. Microplastics and hear buzzwords about. Those would be obviously not healthy for fish or humans. The side is when you're drinking, you guys all know this, when you're drinking a drink with a straw, not last the entire drink. The polyvinyl acetate does not go away. So as you're drinking and it's falling apart in your mouth, you think it's paper in your mouth, but there's polyvinyl acetate. Look on page 13. Unfortunately, PVA can be hazardous to animals and humans when ingested or inhaled. Ingestion may cause injury to the intestinal tract, liver, kidneys, stomach, throat, lungs, mouth, and mucous membranes. Again, unintended consequences. I know we're trying to eliminate single-use plastic in the environment. I think is a great thing. Unfortunately, we know paper straws aren't just right there. In animals, the effect of PVA is much more significant than humans because vinyl acetate is actually acetylide, is known as an animal carcinogen. So it actually can cause cancer in animals. It's not as effective as humans, but obviously in a marine environment, a lot more. The metabolisms of the different. Question? The New Jersey Department of Health and Senior Service highlights the following regarding vinyl acetate. Vinyl acetate affect you when you breathe in. Vinyl acetate can increase fertility in males. Is a bad thing. Contact can irritate skin and eyes. Breathing can irritate nose, throat, causing cough and shortness of breath. High levels of vinyl acetate can cause fatigue, irritability, disturbed sleep, dizziness, and lightheadedness. Probably aligned with your lighting project and sleep deprivation. It also may affect the heart, nervous system, and liver. Of course, that's pretty. I wanted to highlight, obviously, the unintended consequences of vinyl acetate or polyvinyl acetate in paper straws, and what that will do could us and the environment that we. PFAS. PFAS is a known chemical that is, I don't even want to try to pronounce this, polyfluoral.
Handful, yeah.
Yeah, it's not not an easy one to, but it is a man-made chemical by substitute fluorine atoms and hydrogens in the carbon chain. This is used in paper industry for less water soluble to make it repel water and repel chemicals and repel oils. Obviously, in a straw, it's a very admirable quality to your paper straw that it's not soaking up water and chemicals, etc. as fast. These are actually nicknamed forever chemicals because they don't go away, last forever. In page 16, it'll outline Dr. John Bowden's study University of Florida study in 2020 where he purchased 38 brands of straws claiming biodegradation properties. That's where everybody gets their stuff these days. Out of those 38 products, 36 of them, 94.7%, had the harmful ingredient of PFAS. That's not obviously a good thing. So if PFAS is actually on it, then it's not truly biodegradable, being a forever chemical. Unintended consequences of the ordinance contributing to chemical our environment and our waterways, our marine life. Just a side note, FADE does not continue it. Does not contain any polyvinyl acetate. None of those chemicals.
One of the products that was in his, of the 38, was that one of the products that they tested?
No, because we just had launched FADE in Amazon in March of this year. So it was not. But we do, and I'll show you some different of where we are with. In page 17, exposure to PFAS is actually listed here. You can actually see in the second bullet point, thyroid, liver, and kidney disease, immunological effects, cancer and tumors, reduced antibody production are all a consequence of ingestion of. Page 18, I just thought this would be an interesting picture. Most studies are done, as you well know, based on an ANSI standard, an ASTM standard, a testing standard in a laboratory, right? So you're measuring gas out or ingestion and those type of things in a laboratory setting. We decided that we wanted to see what this looked like in real life, so we built fish tanks. Fish tanks with salt water, a real live fish tank, and this is actually a still picture of a video. We have fish living in this fish tank, and after 5.5 weeks, this is what's left of a FADE straw in the environment. I thought this would be interesting for you to see, because you don't see giant chunks of FADE straws or big pieces of FADE straws floating around. The microbes are actually eating it slowly over time, creating biodegradation. 19 is
Fish were probably gaining weight too.
That's right. We actually have some clownfish in there.
Of course you do.
So you had also asked me during the last meeting to take a stab at what an exception to the ordinance would be. I did create that. I don't have that in your booklet. We can fix that. Oh, you got it.
He had sent it ahead of time. Yeah.
Perfect. So obviously, we structured that around the PC Green Guides. So Green Guides actually call out what true marine biodegradation is, or what true biodegradation is, and that exception is built off of the FTC.
FTC?
The Federal Trade Commission.
Trade Commission. Gotcha.
So, one question on this is there? I mean, you had mentioned a list of truly what defines biodegradable, or a list of biodegradable, or is there any one source that kind of classifies that you could write into here as defined by?
Sure, I could. I could. Yes, the FTC guidelines tries to keep vague enough that you have to prove it that it goes away. You could use ASTM 7081, which is an ASTM standard that was written for marine biodegradation. Unfortunately, that 7081 was pulled back in 2018 because that was the only marine biodegradation standard that has ever existed in the United States. And we decided to pull it back, or the government decided to pull it back, because it was very vague. It wasn't specific enough to say that this stuff would go away in nature. It would go away in a lab, it would go away in a controlled area, but it was vague enough where they wanted to yank that or pull that back. The FTC guidelines makes you prove that your product will go away in nature for these standards. 6691 could be another option that we could use if you wanted to put an ASTM testing standard to the to the exception.
And FTC guidelines, is there a particular reference in those guidelines that you would?
Yes, it's actually, if you don't have it there, I have it listed. It's actually subsection 260.8, gradable claims, subsection B. I can give you this. Guideline subsection, because it actually will lay out A, B, C, and D. You know, you're not allowed to claim oxybiodegradation, you're not allowed to claim photobiodegradation. You have to actually have scientific facts that you can. And what I also found on the island is 2 of your proprietors are using fake.
I think there's more than 2, maybe.
That's the only one. I only got here a couple hours ago, so.
Now, some are, I think, over the bridge, and it's not technically in our
No.
area.
There are some places that are using
Forest does,
fade on
yeah.
the beach.
Tiki, I think, is, right?
Yeah, I picked up over 60 that were about to go in the grate, so over 60 of them just spread all up and down, and because they're that color, I knew exactly which one it was. So,
And that's my question. So if someone finishes their drink with this straw and they leave it on the beach, if it blows into the salt water, it's going to take 6 weeks before it disappears.
Actually, yes, it'll actually go to the bottom first, right? This product is designed to sink, so it won't float. It won't be in the general stream of wildlife, et cetera. It'll actually go to the bottom where there's actually more bacteria actually in the silt.
How about if it blows into our dune?
It'll go away as well. So anywhere that the product is designed specifically to go away anywhere bacteria exists.
It has to be covered though, doesn't it? Like sunlight is going to decompose it?
No, bacteria. Sunlight has no effect on it whatsoever. It is only the existence of bacteria. Bacteria exist everywhere. It's actually higher bacteria concentration in certain areas than others. The most stringent, difficult place for this product to degrade is actually in a marine environment. Less bacteria in your water than it is on your beaches, roadways, in a regular soiled environment. There's actually more bacteria there.
But they aren't. So, but we're still going to have to pick them up from the beach. If someone says, "Oh, this is biodegradable," I can just leave it here.
Yeah,
In fact,
that's right. So
it doesn't happen. It doesn't go away that quickly.
no. So it will go away as long as there's bacteria exists. It will go away in that environment. Our goal is to try to whole deal with the sea turtle with a off his nose. We want to be able to rid single-use plastics from our marine environment. Understand that we want folks to dispose of these products properly. The ideal place for a fade straw is at a composting pile, whether a home and composting or an industrial composting pile. But we're not trying to solve for the people that are doing things the right way. We're trying to protect the environment for the people that are doing it the wrong way. There will be over 90% of all plastics is disposed of improperly. 36%, 10% actually is actually recycled in the United States. So we're trying to protect the environment for the people that don't act right. Obviously, we're not proponents of any pollution, throwing your straw out and into the we're here to protect the environment for when that happens. It's not going to be if it happens. That happens.
Thank you.
Brad, I got a quick question for you. You're gonna have to remind me maybe on the numbers. I've had other things allocating my brain cells recently, but so I mean, this is again. I'm just a huge fan of PHA. It's really a kind of a novel, incredible product. But I think what we had an objection to was the slower mechanical breakdown of the straw. Isn't that what?
Yes.
The paper was. Remember, I mean, I don't have that. You actually had a chart, I think, that showed
so it actually goes away at 93% in 112 days.
Huh?
In a marine environment, it's completely gone, 100% disintegrated within 9 weeks. Oil environment, Those are the two key numbers.
93%, I mean, that's pretty well done, so that's 103, so that's 3 weeks, 60, 90, so that's basically 3 months, that's what we're saying, so 3 months, and then paper was relatively quicker, obviously. It's-
Cellulose, and I didn't bring that with me, I apologize, but cellulose was 45 days or 40 days or something,
3
that
days.
level, that
Okay,
plateau
yeah,
level.
well, I've got the data.
I could pull it back up, I'm
Get
sure.
out, because I brought so much other stuff, but I had it with me. Yeah, I don't have it, okay.
The biggest concern was obviously the end-of-life story is much better for this material,
clearly,
for sure. The concern obviously was, while it's doing its thing, is it a risk for a marine animal to ingest it, or bird, or a mammal to ingest it? And we wanted to prove that while it's degrading, it's not a risk to our environment.
Right. Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
Did you monitor the pH levels in the animal?
Yes, all of that's in the study. All of that is in the study. Yep.
The other thing, did you ever have any hard skeleton corals in the tank?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know the
Well, I'm just noticing, so you have the green hair algae growing on these rocks, and I was wondering, was that there before or after it started to biodegrade?
It was there before, so we actually normalized the tank before we put the straw in to let its ecosystem be in a regular point. We actually added some sucker fish to be able to clean algae off the side of the tank so you could see it. Yeah.
Okay. And so, how about the nitrates and nitrite levels in the tanks? Were they affected with the bacteria growing and breeding while they were eating?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to get with the actual case in that tank. I'll have to get with it's a group out of Boston called Key Point.
My last question, or two last questions. What are the types of binding chemicals you use for the straws?
We're using PHA, so PHA is the main component.
Okay.
Now, we have some processing aids that extrude from a melt strength perspective, as well as filler. So, calcium carbonate, which is obviously found in nature as well. The cool thing about the system, when we put it all together, that's the results from biodegradation is the complete. We're not measuring just the PHA or just the talc or just the penta or anything like that. All of these results are all of those materials in the finished product in the act.
And then my last question is, and this kind of goes with what we have bacteria issues in our waters here. What types of bacteria do you find are most eating the straws?
All types of bacteria. Doesn't matter. We've done the test in Belgium. We've done the test in Boston. We've done the test here in Florida. We've done. We brought water from the area, but we actually brought seawater back from Jacksonville to perform science test. So we're doing that everywhere. We have home compostability tests being done in schools across the country right now.
Cool. I like that. All that. That's really. Do you see though the bacteria levels spiking in?
No.
Okay.
No. Are we creating more bacteria? No.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying. If it's like breeding grounds kind of thing. But, okay.
Bacteria is going to exist and eat on something.
Oh, sure.
And just so happens that it likes to eat other stuff more than it likes to eat other stuff.
From, right?
That's right. I mean, it's derived from the fatty acids of the same bacteria that ends up consuming it. It looks like, and there's no number on it, looks like it hits 85% paper in 15 days. It hits 90% paper in 29 days.
Pure paper or paper that's treated?
This is cellulose. Just as base. It's not a straw. No, it's not a straw. I mean, it's just pure cellulose.
I mean, I'm just wondering, once you start talking about all these chemicals that.
Straw is not going to perform to that level. I want to make sure that's clear.
Doing yourself a.
That's a good question. Maybe I can do that study next. I like coming to see you guys. So.
I wonder, has a paper straw manufacturer done that study? Probably not.
I don't know.
Why would they?
Right?
Why would they?
All the ordinance are pointing consumers to go towards their product. So.
Sure. Why would they?
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah, path of least resistance. Okay, so it's
We could do that.
Good one, because
All
again,
these tests-
that was what we were nicking it on last time, was just the mechanical breakdown,
good.
was just longer. I mean, so if it, how long will it sit in that nostril of the sea turtle, which is the photo everybody sees, so.
It is. Well, the other thing, I think, just design of this product versus traditional polypropylene straws, turtles are not, I know more about sea turtles than I do. Once this product hits the bottom of the ocean, it starts to get covered up with silt at the bottom of the ocean, and bacteria starts kind of doing its thing. So it's not like a traditional straw in the garbage patch, floating around in a bag or a straw or a bottle that's just floating around ready for, you know.
We have some sea turtles that root around on the bottom, looking for shells and mollusks and stuff like that, but.
They ban straws here. When was the?
You know, the only one here, I think that was, well, you two were on
Yeah,
seated. I had
must be-
just joined when it was passing. It was right in the
3 years?
process.
17-13, so 2017.
Yeah, 3 years, almost 4.
Why did because I wasn't on that committee, but what was the consensus why they banned it? For other
I
than
would guess
obvious
for,
reasons,
yeah,
but
I would guess the obvious reason of getting rid of plastic straws and the litter issue and it going up on beaches, an issue.
Because, I mean, there was a significant accumulation, then a storm would, a lot of times, some of the bigger hotels would have plastic straws on the beach and just run a rake over them, bury them, and we'd have an erosive event, and we'd have straws everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere, like, flower blooming season.
And you know what? In 2017, PHA didn't exist in the form, right? So now I have a saying that bans don't help, better technology does. In this case, it's better technology that will prevail because, in essence, you're causing other issues by banning plastic and forcing people to paper rather than truly solving the problem. It isn't a brighter candle that you want. You want a light bulb, right? I mean,
so it didn't exist. When did it exist, or when?
We started developing PHA in July of 2018 for our first trial in our Jacksonville facility. It took us over a year and a half to develop phage.
It said that you had studied with ocean water. Did you go into the ocean? Did you dive to see what it did? I mean, where?
Oh, it's actually the way the tester, the ASTM global standards for these type of tests are specific waters at specific temperatures from different areas of the world. This particular test is actually colder water from off the North Sea. It has less bacteria than it would here in Florida, for example.
Really, we've only have 3 years of studies.
Oh no, PHA. So PHA has been around since the beginning of time, right? So the fatty acids that exist in bacteria has been around since before you and I. All of that is part of our everyday life. There's no difference of that than existed time or prior. PHAs have been around forever. The actual patents were originally developed by Procter & Gamble, by a doctor by the name Dr. Noda, I can't remember his first name, but all those patents are 25 years old. Only until recently we've been able to take that technology, commercialize it into a product that we are able to use. Here's the difference on the, I know this is kind of off base from this task force. The reality is that everybody in the last 20 years have wanted environmentally sustainable products. Nobody has ever wanted to pay for environmentally sustainable products. We've always wanted, so the technology at that point always made things more expensive to compete against polypropylene, polyethylene. You talk about industries that have been around for 100 years, optimized for 100. In 2018, when the picture of the sea turtle came out, was the first time that the general public is willing to pay the right thing for our environment. Upgrade. All of that money starts to flow into companies like Danimer or RWDC out in California that's using greenhouse gases right now to create plastics. How the government, we're funneling money into technology rather than just, give me the cheapest thing.
Sure.
How much are these? How much are the cases?
It depends on the size.
Retail, I mean.
How many are you gonna use is the question.
Well, they're priced between, so, polypropylene, we'll call polypropylene a 1. Paper is a 5. Paper is much more expensive than polypropylene. These are between a 3 and a 4.
Under paper.
Under paper. Paper, biodegrade, and of course perform a whole lot better.
How readily available are they in large companies?
We're in 500 Dunkin' stores today. We produced 130 million straws at this point. Sold throughout the United States. 25 different. We just had our product reviewed by Reef Relief. You guys heard those guys down?
No,
Reef Relief kind of is Key West's you guys. They use external consultants rather than internal task force. Give them opinions on the type of products.
Okay.
Reef Relief just blessed our product a week and a half, 2 weeks ago or so to the city. Questions I can answer?
No? Okay, well, I think all we can do is say we'll have to take this into consideration and have a discussion. We actually, again, don't make the rules per se, but we make recommendations to the town council, so we'll convene here and, or not convene, but just. Yeah, thanks again for coming, Brad. It's always nice to see you.
Oh, good to see you guys.
All right, guys. You too. Right.
Any other questions? If there's any other questions, obviously.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.
The USB.
I'll pass these out.
Got all those, all.
Shall we till they leave? No.
I don't know.
We're
Are you going to present on dark side?
transparent. Oh, we can discuss that here in a minute, but
I'm just wondering if we,
take a time here.
are you counting on a presentation?
Well, actually, to present, no, per se. I was going to open the discussion.
Oh,
Actually,
I
yeah.
thought you
I
had a
had that. Yeah,
presentation.
I mean, technically, yeah, but no, I'm not going to present.
I was wondering if we,
Are we deciding on whether or not this is going to be added to?
It's something I think
Or-
we can
or
probably, we
recommend-
should discuss
recommend?
right now. Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
let's
I
go
think
for
the
it.
steps would be, right now, this is an ordinance, for Fort Myers ordinance, what's on A, I believe, right? And so the recommendation, AKA the lockout specs, are B. So that's the, sort of the recommendation that would include, allow straws also to be used. So the question to us is, is Brad convincing with his data here? As you know, I mean, we're data-driven people, as you can probably saw in that lighting discussion. I think last time, I mean, in review, in my opinion, I mean, the PHA is just a superior product to PLA, or which was probably maybe the first savior that came along, sort of, but which is polylactic acid. Now there's a lot more, I think, technology out there. Bill said that the ban came in because of the, just proliferation of straws all over in cocktail drinks. More so probably by the hotels than anywhere else.
The bars and the restaurants, yeah.
But so the reason is to get rid of that single-use plastic straw that won't decompose. So if you're going to allow straws, and I think, was there enough, you didn't want to ban straws, period. In fact, you wanted to have what you thought was an environmentally better alternative, which was cellulose.
The plastic straws have a lot of things going against them. One is they don't biodegrade. The other is they're clear and they blend in with the sand, so they're hard to pick up.
Yeah.
For the bars and for the people.
Sure. Yeah, but they were everywhere. Now, there's an alternative that wasn't available then, right? Because it was 2017, this is 2018, began production. So the question is, do all the other benefits, considerable benefits of the fade straws, do they outweigh what we came up with last time? And that was that the actual mechanical, this isn't one obviously, it's a Slurpee straw, but the mechanical aspect of it breaks down a little bit slower than cellulose, and we don't know it's even paper straws. But so 29 days, let's say, for cellulose, not necessarily a paper straw, and the PHA straw after, I think, 93 days. I think the 29 days was a 93% level as well, is 103 days. So roughly, 3 months versus a month. It'll stay in a physical condition to harm wildlife. It would primarily be birds and mammals, right? Dolphins, turtles. That's the question, as I understand it.
I mean, in my mind, litter is going to happen no matter what. Going to get some form of straw in the storm drains, on the beach, etc. What's the lesser of the evils?
If I haven't seen straw since it's been banned, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing them spread out all up and down the street. When it was banned, you didn't see straws. You might have seen some that people had brought over from off the island, but now we're seeing, now I'm physically picking them up and down my street.
Well, is that because of...
And that's the problem that I have. I came in here thinking, gosh, we care of this straw problem. We say just don't do it. And now we're going to say, okay, go ahead. But then again, it is a better product. So if they go ahead, theoretically, it's not going to be...
I think it's a great product, but just not for coastal barrier islands where our grates, the garbage goes right into the water. There's no time. It's right into our water if it's on the street. Off the island.
Go ahead.
Off the island, sorry, Steve. Off the island, it's a great product because it has time to
So in other words,
biodegradable before it gets into our ocean. So
you think it's going to encourage more straw use? Is that what?
So I'm confused, right? Because the ban was just against plastic straws. So are you suggesting that there weren't straws being used, or you didn't notice them?
No, because people really,
Well, they didn't
use the paper, so they
don't like paper, so they didn't.
So they just
they
didn't
were
use
forced not to. They sort of forced them into not using one.
Right.
Pink shell started when the ban started. They went to paper straws. Everybody hated them. So then they stopped using paper altogether, and then they got. I'm guessing it's a competitor, but it's the same color, and I don't know if it's made the same or not. And all of a sudden, they're all over the beach, because people have the mindset, oh, they're biodegradable, we can just toss them now. It's even worse than it was from my understanding than anything else, because they think, oh, we can just toss it now and not worry about it. That's what I have experienced at the Pink Shell, just in that isolated area. Now, having said that, I've started doing marketing and stuff, which takes time and that, but telling people biodegradable doesn't mean gone, kind of stuff. So, I mean, there are things that come of that, but there's something to be said of. There's going to be litter anyway. There's going to be people doing what they want to do and using it anyway. So, if we have to have something, or not that we have to have something, but if there is an alternative out there that will break down faster and better for the environment, and I mean, things like this are the way to go.
Well, sure. I mean, this is at this point the only thing I consider on the market. So really, what I'm hearing you guys, everybody say, is that the reason we weren't seeing a lot of straws is because no one was using them, because the performance of paper straws was so bad that people foregone it. And now that they have another product that works well, and they're using them again.
They're littering, and from my experience, I feel like they're littering more because now they feel like it doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not sure if it comes in a drink. They really, I think they're showing up anyway. I don't actually. I mean, my personal opinion is I'm thinking they don't know. Oh, this is biodegradable anyway. I think they're just litter bugs as it is.
may just feel like there's more because it's been so long since I've seen them.
Well, they're very, I mean, they're bright, they're identifiable. The soggy, wet straw that's in the gravel.
What do you think, Wendy? You're new on this and you're coming in. What do you think?
I think it's good to add something that says it's marine biodegradable specifically. My just concern is how do you enforce it? How do we take straws away from people and say, oh, we're going to test your straw?
That's to the businesses.
It's to the businesses.
That's
Okay.
enforceability. It's pretty straightforward, and having seen these, I mean, depending on, you know, the will of y'all and the will of council, it's pretty straightforward.
This is also something that the general public really needs an education about why these straws are different from the paper and the potential problems with the paper. I think education is very important and letting people know what's going on. Why there's this.
I mean, is it worthwhile to you because of the potential advantages of straws to actually attempt to contact some of the larger users and actually ask them what their purchasing has been like for straws?
My experience right now
because they won't be ordering them if people aren't using them. So right now, it's our, that's our impression. Is that a?
Oh, you mean the people who've had paper and now that they've gone to fade?
Right. If they're buying 10,000 a month, are they still buying 10,000 a month of these, or did it drop down to 2,000 or something, and now it's up to?
Yeah, I'm not sure. When I was called out to one certain business, and I did issue them a warning for using the plastic straws. Parking lot, they were kind of saying, why are y'all doing this? And I was like, to be honest, the littering is what caused this issue, so clean up around your business. But in looking at that parking lot, there were, the closer you looked, you do see the paper straws. They're just added in there, not, they're white on white rock or white on, the limestone or whatever. Whereas these stick out like, so.
What are they doing?
These taste delicious, by the way. They don't affect the flavor. A problem I found.
Just jump right in, don't you, Wendy? I love it. Try it, right?
Just don't eat them, you'll gain weight. So,
Well, that's the downfall.
Oh, yeah.
Considered plastic. They are considered plastic. But the other thing is there a solid scientific definition of what's marine biodegradable?
That's what we were talking about earlier. FTC guidelines 260.
Oh, okay, the FTC.
Right.
That's
There's
what I
ASTM methods
was
that they
asking
had to
for, so we can have some.
satisfy. Yeah.
So not everybody can, take a regular plastic straw and say.
No, I don't think. We could still address our good friends here. Was there another product that's a plastic that was marine biodegradable? 100% marine biodegradable.
PHA is the only, so plastic is identified as any material that can be softened and molded into something else.
Right.
Carbon chain of specific, either short or long chain length. That's the true definition of a plastic. So anything, this PHA, whether it's PHA or PLA or polypropylene, all of them are classified as plastic because of that definition.
We have to change the
Mechanical
ordinance
property.
like ethanol-based plastics then?
This is not an ethanol.
Oh, no, I'm saying
No,
like
it's not
change
a
it so
petrol.
that.
It's not petroleum based. Yeah.
So I meant, would we have to change it so that type of plastic is?
No, I think the definition of marine biodegradable is the one that ices everybody else out.
PHA is the only plastic that's proven to be marine biodegradable.
Right. Okay.
There is sustainable plastic, I'll say. There are some other marine biodegradable plastics that are petro-based.
Break down quickly, is that the idea? But it doesn't.
It just creates of one. I think I could have gave you an example. Cellulose acetate, example of a non-sustainable plastic breakdown in a most of the cigarette companies, for example, are moving in that direction to try to, but says,
Yeah.
a lot of movement in technology and science that are trying to address the plastics in the ocean. There will be continue to be new stuff. So we didn't want to write this ordinance that it would only be fade, right?
Of course, yeah, we can't lock it.
But the other side is that technology will continue to improve. And then what you're ultimately looking for is if something ends up in a polluted area, that it would go away.
Right.
I think it would probably be good in draft ordinance to mention, reference, the marine biodegradable as defined by the
Right,
Marketing
exactly,
question
that's
for you. How
right.
come you
I
don't
think
have on
Chad
the
was
packaging
asking,
how
yeah.
long it takes to biodegrade?
Question, why don't we tell people how long it takes? Because,
Generally, anyway.
right, because it's not specific in, we sold that to you in Alaska, and the bacteria is minimal in Alaska. I don't feel that it would be right to false advertise. We're very good stewards of the environment and industry. We try to do the right thing, and I don't think it would be fair to advertise that it goes away in 93 days if it takes 150 days. In reality, though, it's a whole lot better than 450 years from a polypropylene perspective, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
But we wanted to be fair.
Okay, thank you, Red. So that's, I guess, the other consideration is even though paper is, you've got issues with paper long-term. I mean, even if you reduce the amount consumption of paper straws just because people don't like them, you're still producing them, which is longer-term marine
Unlike what's in front of you, paper is not just paper.
pollution. Oh, yeah, no, that's exactly the point. It's not, it's the PVA that's, the glue the PVA glue that's wrapping it up. And like we said, we don't know if, even on the from the mechanical property aspect of it, it's for cellulose, not necessarily a cellulose, raw. So the breakdown, the mechanical breakdown. What is our council liaison thing? Okay. All in.
I think Mr. Steve was trying to probe you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I was needling you a little bit about our staff, or our council liaison who actually put the ban in place, what his thoughts are.
it makes sense. I
it's
mean, if you,
Yeah.
I mean, there may be some businesses that were pretty happy just not providing any straws because it's a budget item. We're the bad guys that don't let them have straws. So, but I think that, giving and I understand you're saying about, things that might just go right in the water, but like I said, that's an area where they break down. The only bad spot, if they get to a spot of the ocean where it's anaerobic, which happens when we get like fish kills or that kind of thing, then it'd probably be around longer.
I mean, I understand that, but I think just one day in the water is one day too many. I think that is, I feel. I don't think we should, I think you all worked hard to get it banned. Why are we going to take a step backwards? I understand that it's a good product, but we've already, so that's just where I come from.
Oh, we've banned, again, plastic.
If you believe the studies that they presented in a couple of times, it seems that even the adhesive paper will the environment longer than these.
But I don't think people were using the paper because it wasn't desirable.
I've seen paper straws littering around. I mean,
Not as much as.
But conceptually, you're seeing them. You're viewing them, but they're gonna biodegrade and turn into literally nothing. A little tiny bit of talc, it's gonna turn back.
Yeah, but we
into
don't know exactly how long.
bacteria. We do know, actually, depending on the
And
conditions.
specifically, we know, scientifically, we know exactly from our waters and the bacteria that's in our waters. Do we
He's
know
actually-
specifically
They've run out of
exactly?
Florida water, but again, I mean, are you talking about?
Yeah, Florida water, like
do you want it down
our
to a
back
week or
bay.
down to 2 weeks?
Well, you
a
know,
month or a year, or, I mean,
yeah, it would be good to know, you know, if it actually really does break down in the amount of time that they're saying in our waters, in our environment. I would love that. In fact, I was just thinking that would be a really good idea.
I mean, just in our waters out of the bayside and seaside. I mean, I don't know if it'll do anything really, but other than our knowledge.
My
think
point
like a crab kind of
is
trap
that
in
the
there or something?
alternative
Just
then
pull
is
every now and
that
then off a dock?
what we're allowing is paper straws now that we know persist. And if you look through this body of work again, of research, paper is loaded up with, you know, the glues and stuff that are holding paper straws together are terrible for the marine environment.
Well, the thing is, we already have people using these. We already have companies using similar stuff on the island already.
Not supposed to be.
I agree, and I know that, but they're still getting away with it. So I feel like it's going to be one of those things where, I mean, either they're going to see other people doing it and might as well have something readily available for it, or we need to stop the people who are already doing it.
Why do we need
think-
straws?
But
What is
Brad,
the purpose
is that
of
in fact
straws?
true? Are there other companies that, or don't you have a patent on this? Or are there other companies who could be promoting a similar product?
There are two other companies right now in the United States that are making PHA straws, one out of Boston and one out of Washington State.
They're your competitors. In other words, they're similar products.
They have a little different technology than we have, patents on the actual technology that we use, depending on our competitions.
Thank you. So is Pink Show using one of those competitor products? Is that it? And they're doing it without our even okaying it?
I don't know how, I don't know,
Yeah,
the person in charge of buying these and distributing them,
right.
after I found out about it, I approached him with it, and he essentially said, I already have permission. It shut me down. I don't know what is exactly the type of straw they're using, but it looks exactly like these, feels exactly like them. So either there is some type of wording in here that he's sliding with, or...
No, they're outside the ordinance. They
That's-
haven't been
what I'm saying.
cited. They're getting warnings, and I think, you know, my impression is we're not ready to come down and start a full enforcement effort, and I might be speaking for staff.
Not at all, not at all.
Until,
I'm happy to
unless,
enforce it.
while this is on the table. So if we're gonna, you know, if it's gonna be approved, then why would you go, you know, and start hammering people right now? Because it's a fairly new,
Well, that's kind of what my point was,
concept.
is like, I mean, not to throw my own employer under the bus, but it's like, there are people already doing things like this. And I know of other companies on the island that are saying, well, they're doing it, why can't we do it? So, I mean, having the, thing available where either yes or no is gonna start coming up more often, I think.
oh, absolutely, yeah. But my question,
And having this is gonna be good, I mean.
question to Brad is, are the competitive PHA straws, are they blue? No, do you manufacture the only blue PHA straw as of now?
Right now,
Okay.
as of we know.
Well, then I don't know what we got, cause we got the same color.
Yeah,
They could be PLA, not fade. That's the key. I'm
PLA is not a good
sort of
thing.
add in, right, but if you don't do specific, general, or if you don't do anything at all, folks are going to bring in what they want to bring in to make their consumer or customer's experience the best.
I'm testing what we're using right now at Pink Shell, and I've had it in our water for about December. Not much of a change.
Oh,
Yeah, the problem, I mean, the problem with PLA is that it's really only specified for industrial composting biodegradable, correct? I mean, it's not marine biodegradable, not even
It's got to be
close to it.
130 degrees plus
Right.
in an active environment.
Right, okay. So, yeah,
The
those
picture
are,
you
those
have
are
in that-
completely out if they're PLA straws, yeah.
What you should find in the picture test, in the picture, 6 weeks, you'll have a recognizable straw anymore.
I'm not doing it to disprove anything, I'm just doing it.
You do ours. Trust
Just a point for you.
trust no competition.
Just a point for you, Jennifer. Jennifer, just so I understand kind of your position saying that why do we want to introduce some new litter, right, that it doesn't exist now? But one thing to kind of consider is that, a couple things is, what if it displaces straws, it will not marine biodegrade. That's a plus. Other is, there's all kinds of different ways, you know, I mean, biodegrade means essentially consumed, right? Consumed by something. Plastic, we know, breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces and never goes away. Paper will maybe physically look like it's broken down, but it'll be leaves the chemicals behind, which are not. So when you're looking at this, look at both what benefits it does, while you're also weighing, might be adding, you know, additional.
Just a side note, I got here a few hours ago. I got a chance to go look at some of the proprietors that were using, and every single place that I went to, the square this way, but down
Times
there.
Square, whatever, yeah.
Every single restaurant that I went to, one type or another, everyone.
This represents literally what you found, or did you bring some of these, or?
Yeah, it's all, no, I didn't bring any of those, all those are here in the island. I did not bring you anything from home. Those
These are
all
probably
paper.
propylene here, clearly,
Those are
right?
probably propylene, yeah.
They're being used on our beach right now, correct? Yeah. These are all,
Most of
these are all
the-
papers, and these are, I'm with heaven.
Most of the restaurants are using paper. What we found is most of the time when people use paper straws, they give out more paper straws because paper doesn't last all the way through a drink, especially in a warm, humid environment. So normally you would use one straw. They use 2 or 3 laps before the.
Could make less waste in that.
If
Yeah, it sounds like we
the
should
test to
do
really
it.
find out is if you did go and talk to, you know, if we go and talk to a few people to see what if their consumption of straws has been reduced. I don't know how many people go back and look at their records on their ordering volumes.
Sea turtle gets a straw up its nostril, tend to start choking on it. That can happen pretty quickly. So we're introducing these and they get into our water, especially around nesting season when they're all down close to our coastlines. These are not going to be breaking down fast enough for a
90 days versus 30 days is the question. Even a paper straw will stick in those too for 30 days. Well, I mean,
choke. These are sharp, so it's
okay, but you understand, I mean, it's a straw that's mechanically breaking down regardless of what it's made of. It's 30 days or it's 90 days. So that's the question. And I recognize that. That's why we sort of voted against it at the time, or I don't even know if it was a vote, but we just thought, no, it wasn't because of the chemical properties and that slower breakdown again of 90 days versus 30 days to the point where we couldn't get in the nose, let's say.
Dr. Fossum that brought that up.
What's that?
That was Dr. Fossum who brought it up. Just the fact of letting, the sea turtle can get this
of course,
before it actually biodegrades. So there's a
same thing,
threat
right.
to sea turtles with these
There is,
straws.
yeah, absolutely. We recognize that.
Yeah.
For both of them, so that one's a little bit longer. But then again, the long-term effects are better in the environment. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, you want to sit and, I think we have to on it today? I mean,
We don't have to?
I mean, I hate to delay it unless you
Yeah,
ready to
like
go. I
to
mean,
do
anybody can make a motion at any time, but whether you get a second and we vote, I'm not sure, but. And yeah, it depends on, what the motion would be.
Personally,
Or whether we research it. Go ahead.
yeah, I am happy to research these further, and I do think that it's great. I don't think I would want to see it on our islands. I think people worked really hard, people that go out every day and pick up garbage. I think, they worked so hard to get the ban in place, and I feel like it would be taking a step backwards. I think so. I think then we would end up with straws that we wouldn't even know are biodegradable. It would be hard to determine.
That's what I was thinking.
And so that's where I would have to say,
See, and I would have agreed with you up until I heard their presentation, but it sounds like a better mousetrap to me. And businesses want to give out straws, people want straws, you should go with the state of the art.
I think the other thing we have to consider also is there's a lot more organisms in our marine environment than marine mammals too. I mean, they're obviously very important, dolphins, I guess that's the only marine mammal I can think of, right?
Manatee.
Reptiles, turtles, yeah, are great. The manatee. There's a heck of a lot more going on out there, and if you eliminate, you have a product that actually just disappears. I mean, and it effectively does. I'm a pretty huge critic, but this is a good product. So it has to be weighed, and I'm not trying to sway anybody one way or another, but I just keep bringing up the argument.
If it's less expensive than the paper straws, the businesses will go for it because it's less expensive. So it would seem that eventually we'd be getting rid of those paper straws that have those negative chemicals in them.
Why do we need straws? We're not able to
I
drink
don't
to
use
them.
straws. I'm not a.
I'm with you on that, but
Why do we need straws?
for some reason the
I mean,
businesses feel they need it.
when, before I started seeing these spread all up and down the island, I didn't see straws, but plenty of people were coming and drinking and enjoying themselves.
There's a lot more by you, I can tell. I have
There's a
none.
lot.
I mean,
People like
We
straws.
don't, but,
I haven't seen one, yeah. I mean, I walk, but you're farther north by the commercial districts. That's
And I
where-
walk in the mornings.
It's outside the
and I
hotels, let's
see
face it, the resorts and whether
And
they have some
again, I'm
cocktails.
not saying that this isn't a good product. I'm just saying I don't think that it would be a good product to reintroduce into a ban that we have already established. I just lost my, I'm sorry, but
Okay,
but
so
anyhow, you get my drift.
that leaves us in a position, either if you'd like to make a decision, to bring it to the council, and if we were to vote, again, it's the majority, obviously. There's agreement, you can move it toward council for their adoption. Number two is to vote on it and it doesn't make it, doesn't go to council. Or the third is to actually, you feel passionately to do that, to do the research that says, are they in fact, is the volume of straws increasing because they're available versus decreasing the number of straws on the island? Which is a consideration, because that's one of them. Somebody brought up the fact that they think just because paper straws don't work well, that now people that normally wouldn't be using a straw are using straws. That's one consideration. Not to say that more paper straws are being used because it takes more than one to finish a drink. And then the third piece is just the mechanical properties of the longer breakdown. Initial breakdown, I should say.
Another concern I would have is you said 3 other competitors or 2 other competitors? So there's something put or is this an ordinance?
What color are the other two?
This is the current ordinance.
Okay, so if we were to specifically, put, the companies, you can't do that.
You could,
Because
but I
what
would, I
I'm
mean, I
concerned
certainly
with-
wouldn't.
The town's not going to recommend a brand here.
Okay, right. My concern would be that then I would open the floodgates to buying and supplying something that isn't truly biodegradable. So then all of a sudden now we've got other
Are
businesses.
you saying this is not truly biodegradable?
No. There are straws out there that are not truly biodegradable. Just as we were working on the plastic bags. There's a lot of products out there that aren't truly what they say they are. And then that opens, and when we say, okay, let's allow marine.
Not to interrupt you, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah,
but
sure.
there's federal guidelines that specify that these are truly biodegradable. And if those are added to the ordinance, then that would exclude any of those products.
Who's gonna step into each place and?
Well, technically,
Point of order, I don't think it's really proper to have a constant dialogue with the, I know there's questions and things, but I think really the discussion should be among the, just the.
Thank you.
What I was saying is like, who's gonna step into each of the businesses and check and follow up on that straw that they have?
well, it's enforcement, I mean, it's the ordinances, technically that goes to Chad, I think, or code enforcement,
Yeah,
so
that-
now, whoever's doing code enforcement's gotta do that.
Sure is, yeah.
Pull that check, I mean, all the ordinances, I think,
I think we're
They don't.
opening a can of
don't,
worms.
yeah.
We're opening a can of worms.
I think it was never closed. I think we have straws on the beach. I'd like to
personally
move,
haven't seen a blue straw on the beach, I haven't really seen many straws, I guess, but
No.
I'm not in a hotel district either.
I live in an
I'm in a
area.
residential,
Pictures if you wanna see.
I've got
Newton all the way
pictures
down
too.
to the CWA, I mean,
got
every
pictures.
morning I don't see them, so that's the,
So I've got them. These straws were lined up, literally 3 blocks, stretched as far as you could see blue straws. And then when I turned onto my street, they were stretched all the way down to my street.
that's all from that establishment on the corner,
I'm not saying. I'm just saying that I don't know where, but it,
I would guess. I
but
mean,
may,
you
or
found
maybe other
60 of them
places
in the
too.
parking lot,
I mean,
right?
or other places. Who knows? Who's
Sure.
I'm not going to specify which restaurant or which business, but I'm going to say that they are being used, and again, yes, I know it's litter, but it's litter that wasn't there in the past couple of years since the ban. I do live in an area that's high traffic, high area, where I am seeing more and more, especially and cigarette butts. And I really wanted to work with the committee on coming up with something. I don't want to get sidetracked, but we've got to figure something out. Our side streets, I don't think my neighbors, they would call code enforcement so fast if I had bottles and plastic and cigarette butts all over my front yard. I think my neighbors would have a cow. Well, then why are we not asking for the same standards on this island from the businesses on Estero Boulevard? So I'd like to talk about that, but not now. Let's focus on the fade straws.
Jen, why are you seeing more straws?
Because because they're not being distributed, correct? But I think if they have other restaurants in other locations and they're using it, they are bringing them down. Using, another restaurant, if they have several other restaurants in another area, they're bringing them down for use for other restaurants. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, people are using, restaurants are using more straws? I don't understand.
Well, in this one example, I believe they have more than 2 or 3 restaurants. They're ordering these for another restaurant that's off island, and then bringing these to be distributed to their customers on this island. You understand?
So the straws that you're seeing are these new ones?
Yes, they're these. They are these.
Oh.
And what Rob is saying is that, so yes, the businesses are using straws, but we don't know. I mean, obviously we do know what this one is, but we don't know what the other straws contain. And so when we open up and say biodegradable, marine friendly, how are we going to know what the restaurants are putting out there? And
Just,
code
you ask them
enforcement
for the
cannot just-
specifications
Right,
on
they're
what
gonna
the straws are. I mean, that's simple enough.
Simple
address
enough,
that.
but who's gonna check on it? Code enforcement, but I mean, that's a lot.
Maybe it seems like a lot now
Don't do a
because
lot,
we
do
just got through COVID. Let's face it, for almost a year, restaurants were down, bars were down. There was nobody out there consuming anything. Now we've opened up. COVID is, we don't have to wear masks. We're going out again, and that's why you're
No, well, it's been since
Get
the
PHA
whole time through
PHA
COVID.
mask is what we need.
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap, those are
Our restaurants and bars are only closed for a few
everywhere.
months.
I mean, they are everywhere.
PHA, everything.
That's
Oh,
right.
masks.
That's right.
I'm telling you, holy cow. Man, oh, man. Okay, it's
I'm gonna have to take
5:35.
off.
What do y'all?
I would move on this, and let's see if we have a vote. I would move that the Marine Resources Task Force recommended council to amend the distribution of plastic straws to have this exception for the straws that have been proven to be biodegradable only. However, wording we want to put on that to make sure that
Marine biodegradable.
biodegradable. But in other words, I'm looking for a second on this to vote yes on this measure.
To include as defined by the FDC,
Right.
putting that in the definition.
Have a second, any
We have more discussion and, or a
more
vote?
discussion? Yeah, actually, I hadn't heard from
Chad?
Liaison Schutz over there about
Okay.
his,
Like I
his
said, I think,
philosophy on the benefits of the trade-off.
I think litter is litter, and I'm happy to enforce we already have littering on the books, and where nice thing about laws that stand out, it's easier to enforce that. Litter is going to happen, and I think it's a matter of just choosing the lesser of rules that are out there. I would encourage the PHA FADE folks to do a study that actually shows the breakdown of cellulose straws, not just cellulose itself, but if were my decision, I would recommend for y'all to adopt something that's biodegradable per FTC, marine biodegradable per the FTC guidelines or some sort of scientific standard.
Call the question. Let's go home.
Any contributions from our staff liaison, or our council liaison?
I'm gonna lead up to you guys. You advise us, and I would, in my opinion, I can't vote.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, then I'll bring it to a vote. All in favor of shading our plastic straw ban, include marine biodegradable straws?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 3-1 with advisory board member Rusk. Or what's the proper word? Opposing? Dissenting? That's it. Okay.
Can't concentrate anymore, Steve.
Right. Now, let's face it, it goes to town council and they make the decision, we don't. We can just recommend, and they've got somebody there that probably has some opinions as well, so. Okay.
Passionate debate though with them.
Oh, yeah, probably one of the better ones we've had, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, just, okay, so we've got a number of other agenda items here that I would consider tabling.
Yeah, if I can just mention a couple things that I'd included and just give y'all some homework, if possible.
Oh, sure, we love it.
Please.
Sure.
So y'all saw Ms. Rose Larkin's email to me asking to convey this to y'all. So if y'all can read over that so we can give her some feedback. She's putting a lot of work into that, and her husband's ill, so she couldn't make it here today and asked to be excused. As well as Dr. Fossum had some emergency hospital work, so if y'all are okay with a motion to excuse those members, I don't know if we did that on the top end, but if we can excuse those members, they did give proper notice and legitimate excuses.
Motion for that?
Vote on that? Do I make a motion?
If there's a consensus, I'm fine with that, whatever works.
Any objections to?
No.
Okay, and then, so I gave some boating, there's a FWC boating report that recently came out, so for the 2020, and I gave the Lee County data on that. There's actually more boating data out there. That was just to speak to Member Russ's concerns. I am in contact with being into contact with FWC, and that's going forward. Council's given them the
Can you just stop right there? I'm sorry, my brain stopped working. I think I understand her. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
part.
Rusk, and I just heard my last name.
Sure. So I just want to assure you, so permitting on what council's already given direction on is going forward, with regards to the Back Bay, and Lee County is in the process of moving some signs that were outside of the designated MPZ zone into there, and then replacing 63 and I think the entrance to Fishtail with the slow signage.
So on the marker that's already there,
The one that had 63 that had gotten washed up.
there's a marker there now, a green marker. So they're going to replace it on slow speed signs on going from north and south. One sign.
No, it'll be one facing the channel.
One facing the channel.
Right, so, because people shouldn't be on the east side of that marker, because it's a, red right returning. So they really shouldn't be on that side, so it's facing the channel where all the boat traffic should be, anyways.
Over there too, you're
Okay,
running into
so-
trouble with low tide.
So there's going to be some signage. 'Cause I mean, every time I go there, the boats are just zooming through that area, and I can't.
Sure, that's an enforcement issue,
Yeah,
and
no, I know, but if there's signs, I mean, because there's such a large stretch from even before Fishtail, that you have a slow manatee sign, and then all the way at the other end at Coon Key, there's no signs in between in that area. So that's why I think it's important that there was already previously a sign there, so I don't understand why they wouldn't.
when you say there, where are we saying?
In between, right in front of Bay Beach Lane, where the
Or
boat dock
63
is.
that got washed out?
Yep, I've got pictures, and it had a slow speed sign, although it was facing towards Bay Beach Lane community, which doesn't make any sense, because when you're boating, you're going this way.
Right, but people aren't gonna be on, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's
In
how,
that area where that marker is, there really should be, they had one there before, so there must have been a good reason, and I think that it needs it now.
okay, yeah. So Lee County's in the process of replacing those. So just to
Fantastic.
give you an update on that.
Great.
And then lastly, I gave y'all dune management plan, which is a good read, especially for the renourishment that we have coming up, and encouraging the plantings to go along with the renourishment. Applying this policy island-wide is the idea for me, at least. And then I gave y'all this. This is a lot of pages, and looking back at it, I should have highlighted the changes that I made, but basically you're looking for the underlines and the strikeouts, which
It's on the dune management plan.
this is on the ordinance, our ordinance that we have. So chapter 14, environment and natural resources.
Oh, gotcha.
And what are we
Okay,
looking
So that's
for?
our ordinance right now,
So,
gotcha.
yeah, that's the ordinance, and then this is a kind of just a draft where I've added some verbiage and struck out some verbiage. Feel free, any other changes or anything else that y'all see in this kind of beach management, dune management, et cetera.
The other document, is that an addendum to this, or is that?
This document is, this is policy per town council. It was voted on, I forget which year, back when Keith was here. The dune management plan that was,
Partially contributed by Champ also, was she involved in this too?
oh,
No.
her documents was
One
last
pager.
year.
Oh, okay.
This is more the 2011, 2012 era.
Right, I think we've looked at, I mean,
Right.
And it's
looked
separate
at, I've
from
looked
this.
at this, yeah.
Yeah, so this is more, the beach dune management plan is more policy, that elements of this were permitted by FWC, implemented by town staff, and the sentiment I've gotten from the property owners and the stakeholders, beach rakers, is that it was successful in the north end, so something that, policy to extend island-wide, which is what I'm attempting to do in this Chapter 14 document with some additions and strikeouts. So we can further go into that our next meeting.
So again, the policy really was a result of that last piece.
Nourishment.
When you put together
Trying
the
to
MBZ
basically
concept, right?
incentivize dune
Information, right? Gotcha. And I just took a quick glance through this, the larger one, and I don't really see too many. Are there a lot of?
It's not, it's basically what I did was I added a definition for a frontal dune and then added some verbiage to make an exception for properties that have a frontal dune can rake within 2 feet instead of 10 feet, which is one of the asks. I think there needs to be a little bit more done on the dune vegetation as well. Somehow allowing for or incentivizing our beachfront property owners to remove exotics that are on the beach. But it's still trying to work out the best way to do that.
Okay, so for ensure we understand you properly, so these two are really, these are obviously need to be discussed, so those will be homework to read. The county boating accidents are basically, is that more of an FYI?
That's more of an FYI to Member Russ, just information. It shows you the issues that are, you know, kind of where you would expect on the north end, Matanzas Pass, and then the Coon Key on the south end area.
Okay. Okay.
And if you look up FWC 2020 boating accident report, there'll be some more information that you can see.
Okay, and on the invasives, we just,
Member
resolve that today, or you
Larkins,
want-
table that for next one.
okay, next one. So, okay, because we have to work on the agenda, and with that agenda, we're gonna work, that agenda that we'll be working on, is that for our next meeting or our next normally scheduled meeting? I mean, I suppose we can decide, right?
We're tabling for our next normally scheduled meeting. The agenda for next week is for
Only for the lighting.
It's a special meeting,
Gotcha.
just
So
for
it's a-
Yes,
so there's a month delay, so that's still okay.
We skipped over osprey habitat.
Want to do this weekly?
Oh, and Osprey Habitat, we can table that for the next one.
Yeah, we're tabling.
We're tabling it.
Yeah.
Do I have access? I know. Is the boat, the town boat, are somebody that could take maybe one or two of us out, or one of us out? I'd like to see some area where we could put an osprey.
In the water? Again, my recommendation to staff would be to keep it landside. It's nothing that you would need to get permitted. It's serves the same purpose.
Is ospreys, you can't tell an osprey that keeps nesting in between two pilings that, okay, now we've got one way over on the golf course, now you need to fly over there. We need to get something. I have a few different discussions with International Osprey Foundation, FWC, and typically they need to have an osprey habitat. If they continue to nesting in this one spot and losing their babies, then we need something that's close by to lure them to.
Right, so it's about, what, maybe 20, 30 feet from Bay Beach area. Did you have any success with talking with Bay Beach, or?
So, still talking to the Bay Beach Association, EBI. The EBI was trying to get, what's the word? I'm thinking, where they overhang so they can attach it to the piling and it actually sticks out. The biggest issue is they're messy. The birds are messy. Control where birds poop, but that they don't want it connected to the dock. And they're leasing that for 10 years with, I think, Lee County or the state. I can't remember. They would have to ask for permission. We would be able to put a piling within the area of the perimeter of their lease, somewhere away from there, but that would probably entail them getting permission from the county.
From the state and from U.S. Army Corps.
And from the U.S. Really? Even if it's in they're with their permission?
Pigeon Phil, I believe so.
Land, they don't want it because it's messy, so I'm I'm trying to help and I'm trying to come up with some ideas. I'd hate to see this poor osprey nest keep doing this.
Write a proposal for the committee to
Committee, this committee? Consider.
Is it placement, how you're going to do it, what needs to be done?
Ultimately, it would have to go to council.
Right, I mean, the town's gonna need to pay for it.
Pay for it, or?
Well, there's also grants and things like that out there, parks and, may even be like Lee County Parks, want to get involved and help with the expense. I guess there's a lot to it to put it in the water near it. I know.
Are there any residents around, like private home residents?
Oh, it's Bay Beach is on the south end of the island, like 4 huge condo buildings. So.
No private homes along.
I'm not from
Private homes.
I'm on Linnell, by Santini. Yes.
If we can table it for next,
Okay.
and, I mean, do some on it and get a proposal that we can look at. Town.
About the Good Citizen Award, aka the Murphy.
So, just help me understand here. So technically, dark skies will be tabled.
I think everything except for what was discussed today, tabled.
Straws
Sudden
one,
screen.
okay. Unless somebody would like to buy the banner for Ocean Friendly Sunscreen, I would say that could, well, I guess we're not going over the agenda yet for next, we'll talk about that. But anyway, so water markers, manatee protection zone, that remains? That was an FYI you gave us.
And do you feel like more needs to be discussed on that, or?
Well, I guess I just don't understand where the sign is going. Where you said more by Fishtail?
I can forward you the message from County.
Island 63, that'd be perfect.
No, I would like to.
You want to leave it on?
I would like to leave it on.
Okay.
I'd like to too, because talking about the north end, also I'd like to start a little bit about the signage down at Bowditch Park. I know this is mainly the south end that you guys are discussing, but
Right now,
down
yeah,
at Bowditch
specific,
needs
yeah.
some attention too, I feel.
Leave it on there and discuss it. Osprey habitat remains.
Yes.
And of course, dew management's a huge
actually,
one.
Is it Osprey nesting?
Remember, they're gonna start.
Nesting. Okay.
They just had the brood, they just.
4 months, enough time to be able to put something in the water and get, is it feasible to be able to get something done in 4 months?
Even if it gets done, they'll still use the nest. They're sticking in the area for this. When they do their winter migration, it's when they come back and start relocating. So if they have another clutch of eggs this season or this year, they're probably going to try again in the same spring next year. That's when you're going to have the best luck. You kind of look at it like that as a window. Whatever you do between now and September, the birds won't care. They'll care when they come in the winter. From my experience and what my research.
Cool. Okie dokie, so let's move into the Good Citizen Award. Anybody have any recommendations for the Murphy?
No, I don't have anyone.
I have Keller, they came out, I don't remember or they came out and did a beach cleanup and sent me a picture. They had about 70 people out on, I think they just stayed in the area of Square and then maybe went down to Newton, but they were out there having fun and
The info on like the Red Day, although we'll probably have that in an email.
I'll ask.
There's like a Red Day event for Keller Williams, maybe, is that?
Yeah, it was Keller Williams.
Williams, yeah, that's the lady that came and visited us, yeah, so. Okay, we got that one. Anybody else? You got one?
I don't have any, Steve.
Wendy, anything? No? Rob,
Oh, I
anybody?
just saw something in an email, a picture of a girl who rescued an osprey that
That
had fallen
was,
into the water?
yeah, so that, yep, that was, Fishtail Marina. They went out and rescued, and we had a big, it took a village for sure, and then they actually only 1 out of 3 survived. They had 2 other orphans that they put into the nest, and it worked. And the parents for weeks were screeching and screaming, and people were so distraught seeing that. So
Start sending in
that's
all
why I
my
want to
osprey
get, they
rescues
keep
now.
nesting in this area between 2 pilings. And the babies, when they get bigger, they fall down and they
It's
die.
outside of, there used to be a big nest on that triangular.
Okay, right, that's not out in the water? Okay, so that's what we were just talking about. So those signs, somehow they got taken down, and by the way, Dr. Fossum had said something that if they start to nest on signs, that they can come and remove the fledglings.
Technically, yeah.
I actually, FWC said no, they can kind of maneuver it and make sure, but they cannot, they're protected, they cannot just come move unless it's an absolute dire, like if, for example, a stoplight. There was one that was hanging in.
He was suggesting, I think, that if the nest prevents you seeing the sign,
Yeah.
they're gonna remove that debris off of the sign to ensure.
Not the nest
Which you,
itself.
well, I mean, hopefully they
If
don't.
it's an active nest, they can't, but if it's an inactive nest, they can maintain the sign.
Okay, good. Thanks, Chad.
So with your question, that's where they were nesting, and then once that sign was gone, and now they went to the very next step, which was right across the way in between 2 islands. So they're building the nest, and they keep dropping and drowning. I really want to try and get an osprey, something over there.
Yeah.
You know, for
Owes
that,
me
so.
We have them in the trees,
me.
but we don't.
Where's my lighting?
Like the article?
Question from Murphy?
I wrote it, so.
Okay, so, just to update the new members, so the Murphy is if you haven't seen it in the Observer, it's the monthly recognition of a environmental deed done well. And also, by the way, we have, whereas Bill used to write a column every month, the Shoreline Spotlight, and he left and I moved over here, I wasn't gonna write that every month. We've distributed amongst members to write. So, at the next meeting, I believe I'm due the next meeting, so the next meeting, I'll get that list out and find out where we can put you in, okay? And then it's open to you what you'd like to write about, basically, and I can give you the requirements,
spotlight,
600 to 800, 600, 800 words. Sometimes they go longer, I think we published one that was maybe even 1,200, and they published it, so, but I think it needs to be,
No one explained to me when I first got here what the I understood Murphy Award, but no one explained to me. But so also there's a Murphy Award, and if you are out and about and you come across somebody that's doing like-minded, stewardship activities or subjects or rescuing or cleaning up, then once a month we'll meet and nominate some group or individual for the Murphy Award. And if you nominate and they actually are the ones that we get voted on, then you get to write the article.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a format, you just, actually, it's pretty much a brief description with a photo. So usually you want to get a photo, and then, what they've
Was mine
done.
too long?
No, I did edit it just a tiny bit, but no, we got away with it. Let's go, let's push the envelope a little bit. They didn't send it back and say, hey, could you make this shorter?
Yeah, it was a good.
But we had like a page, I think it was the first story that was carried onto another page. You know how they always carry stories onto another page, and then, so.
Well, then I guess we still need to, that's a good.
Right, so I make a motion that we give Keller Williams the Murphy Award for May.
Right, and when is
Second
due?
You brought up, that was your recommendation, Keller Williams
Yes.
Day, and I'm making a motion that we make that the Murphy. Seconded
And I
it.
seconded it.
Do we have any objections? Motion carries. Aye. Like I said, I've got May for the article, and you were fairly recent, so I'll
Just
find it.
the-
I'll
the
get that
pop-up.
list out. Yeah. So I'd like to, so members, items and reports?
Just to give everyone a heads up on the pop-up, I just sent you all out the June up, and just a few, see, we've got, Bay Oaks is gonna have a kids camp, and they're gonna be doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Newton Park. So I thought that would be a good, pop-up area and time. And we have, DEP for 12 months is allowing us to be on the beach, so that's also good news. We have, I've got parking for whenever there's county parking, like for,
Sorry.
DEP, sorry.
Department of
Department of
Environmental Protection.
Oh,
Or the DEP, yeah.
So if we're on the beach, there's a laminated that's attached, just so everyone knows that we're allowed to be. And then for parking, I've got the county parking, and anytime we're at Bowditch, and Hall Park, and then of course now we have the Fort Myers Beach Town parking, so to make it a little bit more. It's not, this pop-up is a great way for all of us to get out and talk to people about what their thoughts are on the environment and subjects. And it's not a requirement if you're on MRF, but it is very much appreciated for assistance, especially when it comes to teachers, because you're so good at talking with kids. And so if you see a date, it's not a commitment. If you see a date or a time slot, or actually as a MRF committee member, you can look, if you want to be somewhere else that's not on there and you want to take a couple hours, and please do so.
For understanding of something.
I am.
Had a bad reaction to my.
I am, because I really am passionate about this, and I think we're getting really good feedback. I just need more help from, so every time we do a pop-up, a MRF member has to be there to represent. So I just need you to, look over the calendar if you can see a pop-up date.
the materials are already prepared and.
Well, so it comes to, the town has a 10 by 10 tent, and I have tables, and if you, we've got dioramas for sea turtles. I've got something that discusses, it's an aquarium that shows the critical importance of sand dunes. I've got all these, fun things, or if you can think of fun things, and just stuff that, we want to keep it about the environment. Right. Which we live in. Right. I'm just asking that we all pitch in, and if you see a date or a time, I really appreciate it. Both of you.
Perfect.
And you are, as a MRF member, he's allowed to be a representative.
Of course, yeah, he can go
Yeah.
Murphy crazy,
Rubbing that in, don't you?
except for throwing up his tie-breaking vote if it was a vote for this other thing today, but, good. Anything, Wendy, members report? Basically, we just, if we're working on something, if you got something to share with the crowd here? Anything?
Right now,
Okay.
my mind's a little muddy. But I
Usually we
am
don't run this
working
long.
at this new class and get some takeaways.
And that's your master naturalist,
Yeah, it's,
third module?
Well, it's not the third core, but it's the habitat restoration topic. They have
Gotcha.
3 new topics. I'm waiting to do uplands, and then
One, yeah. Offered is off, right?
Also, if you reply back to me in regards to the pop-up, I believe, did you all get the email?
Oh, yeah.
If you reply, just keep Chad, for Florida Sunshine, right, Chad? Are you away for
my
that?
understanding is in general, really be dialoguing together,
About you being,
like a back and forth outside of the meeting business. You can ask the clerk on that. I'm not an
I
expert.
thought we had established with the clerk that would, because the pop-up, remember the day we were on the phone and you said,
If you've got the green light on it,
as long as you CC me or Amy on the pop-up talking about,
On the pop-up booth, Jennifer emails everybody, they can email back on the pop-up. But in general, we can't send emails to each other. We can't even talk out, you know, about
Anything?
our business outside of this building, which makes, so you know, which makes projects very, 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 very difficult. So
All that
a lot of
conversation
these,
has to
a
happen
lot of these
here.
agenda items are typically brought up by somebody, and if you do, you own it. I mean, just be fair, if we actually how it works. And it kind of, you know, it kind of caught me by surprise when I first joined. I thought, why isn't anybody else open it? You know, well, you can't even communicate, so it makes it very, very difficult. So at the next meeting, actually, I'm going to bring up this concept of a kind of a discussion steering document. I had done it with the beach pickup stuff where I got some images and I said, okay, here's the issues. We got building something. We have plastic buckets versus this versus this. So you try to structure the discussion where you can boom, 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 go through it and not, you know, kind of, it's otherwise it's a little bit haywire when you just jump into a new subject. So it's just everybody just talking about what they know about it or whatever. So anyway, I'll talk about that later. But Rob, did you have any members' items?
Yeah, I would like to add to next week's agenda, discussing some type of ordinance or something to deal with until the new mooring field gets placed down at the north end of the island, regulating what those anchored boats are able to do. And there's some illegal / sketchy behavior and activity going on out there in regards to fishing, trapping, poaching sharks, using them as bait in crab traps, harassment of kayak tours and things like that, that I think we need to start keeping an eye on. Because I don't know how long is it going to take till we get the mooring field up there, but
No idea. That's the Anchorage Committee, actually. You may even
might reach out to them also.
potentially reach out to them, but also I'm not sure. That's a federal navigable waterway, and I don't know if the town can even affect a change. I mean,
I would need to see what he's proposing and research it. I'm not sure.
yeah. Okay, so maybe bring that to the thing.
I'll get a
but we
little more
can-
info to see exactly what's up there.
If we can do it on the next regular meeting, not next week.
Oh, right, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And when would one of you guys be able to tell me when the next Anchorage meeting is, though? Do we know?
This morning, so a month from now.
On Wednesdays, though?
Wednesday mornings, so we usually have ours the second Wednesday.
Every month.
Today was the exception to get the street lighting in, but usually it's the third Wednesday morning.
Okay, thank you.
Wednesday of the month, gotcha. Excellent. And for me, I just, members' reports, I just want to recognize the tireless efforts of Jennifer Rusk here in the pop-up booth. I mean, we're getting absolutely,
Bravo. Oh, thanks.
really getting wonderful.
It's so fun. It's so
I mean, to the point where if you do suggest something, you own it. I mean, she owns it, and she's.
This isn't the Jennifer pop-up, this is the.
Oh, no, it's the MRF, but the point is all the, you know, the regulation, all of the things you went through. I mean, you literally, it would be very difficult for you to have, us to help you, because we'd have to talk about it, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, but yeah, it's been great.
I really appreciate it.
We had a nest relocation this, I think yesterday, and a woman came and she said, well, I know, she started giving us some info on sea turtles, and I went to she called it the town booth. I said, was it the pop-up booth? She goes, yeah, that's it. And I talked there, and boy, it was fantastic. I learned so much. So there's some feedback for you. And also,
I thank Mary for that. She really.
yeah, and actually all the members, and we've got a loaded agenda. I can tell you that we actually have a list already of some priorities here that we haven't even touched, and we're loading priorities right into the agenda as they come up. So maybe I'll have that more, organized so we can actually prioritize them, and then work off that priority list again, so that we don't keep just expanding different priorities. So I think that's it. Public comment. Set agenda for next meeting. Okay, we've got dark skies. We've got the Water Markers Manatee Protection Zone. We've got osprey habitat and dune management. And I think that's all, unless you want to investigate the ordinance on the mooring field.
I don't know about investigating an ordinance, but I'll look into,
You'll be, okay, you
I'd
can,
like to discuss what's
you
happening.
can bring that at the members report, and we can still discuss it.
Okay.
So, I mean, at least you can tell us where to go and, you know, and that type of thing, so,
I'm already in touch with sheriff and FWC about the whole thing.
okay, great. And, also, we've never really followed up on the MRF brochure either, that our councilman brought to us to consider. So is that worth keeping on there, or should we?
Yeah, that back. More brochure.
Is the budget finalized? Brad?
Sorry?
Budget finalized, when is it?
Right now is a good time to suggest budget items.
Well, I really
'cause
forgot
think
about
my-
this. Forgot to ask, but, so there are some expenses that come along with this pop-up. One of the things I'm a little concerned with is because we're using it, the pop-up so much, is that the case is starting to tear, and I'm pretty careful. I always take it out and clean it. It's just wear and tear on that case is rapidly. I'm hoping it lasts for the next year, but if it doesn't, what do I do? So I guess I would ask for a small budget for the pop-up and for incidentals like pencils, paper, and like, yeah.
How much were you thinking?
How much was that tent?
I'm not sure. It was a Guy Harvey tent, so it's probably over budget.
Yeah, do you need a case for it, or do you need a tent?
Hey, no, the tent is sort of okay, but it's actually from the wind. The ties have been ripped, things like that, but, depending. And then does that also apply with the logo for the sign, or is that?
We haven't, yeah, we need the banner, of course.
Not
new
a
banner.
new banner, but just.
Circle, I think it would probably be just.
If you can email,
So I suppose the
Jenny Dexter on that, I think she's happy to do it for you. I don't think it's.
That's not
banner?
part of the budget.
banner, okay, we will do that.
It's,
Right. Favorite PIO at Jenny Dexter, I'll tell you that. Okay, so she's actually the banner person. Okay, good.
I don't know how much.
And then put a booth in there. I mean, the problem is it won't be customized. Like right now, it's fairly nice because it's marine, but you can request them. I mean, you can only ask
What? What do
for a booth. You're saying a new booth, right?
you mean, tent?
Tent, I mean. Well, booth tent.
Booth tent. Yeah, just in case something happens. And
4 tablecloths would be nice too. Images on them.
I actually have a tablecloth, the one that goes on the app, and also if I could get a logo on that. Now, the one isn't going to work on that, so I don't know. How much does a tent cost? So cheap, then it's even out even quicker. So is $300 too much to ask for a budget for
Incidentals? That doesn't, plus $300, we'd like $300, we'd like $400 and a new tent, booth, a new tent.
And when needed.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to get behind this MRF, this effort of the MRF pop-up, then, our MRF outreach program, then that's what we're requesting. They used to actually have budgets.
A $500 MRF budget?
How did it go from 300 to 500? But okay.
Negotiation room.
MRF budget for the pop-up,
I don't
yeah.
want it to be so much that they say, "Oh gosh, no way,"
The pop-up program only, and the rest would come, I mean, we talked about the oyster, just offhandedly about the oysters, if that's, to put some placeholders in there. For budgeted, you need to put some placeholders.
With the oysters, it was steel, probably 5-gallon buckets.
Stainless steel. I think I still have never seen the project or what they were doing with it, but
And then everything else was maybe the screws to go into the dock.
stainless. Yeah.
The oysters and the cleaning of the oysters.
Clean all that's manual, and that's
Chin Up
volunteer.
said that they maybe could loan us the drill that was drilling the oysters.
That would be awesome. They got a drill press. Basically, is it a normal wood drill press, or is it something?
Talking to the full-time tailor here.
Okay. Okay, well,
It was some sort
Little
of thing
bit,
where
yeah.
it looked like you're, you know,
it's a drill, it's a drill press. Yes, actually, what you want actually, you probably can get the drill press, but a couple of bits, drill bits is what you need, because you probably, you know, if you had, I mean, it would probably go through there a lot quicker than anything. Masonry type bit. Whatever you think that would be. Full time.
Good show.
Yeah. Okay, well, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:15.
Second?
Favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Chairman,
Looks
if I
like,
can,
looks like the
grab
A's
your,
have it. It's adjourned, 6:15. Thank you all for your
Mary, can I ask
Your
you a
efforts.
question real quick? Me? Yeah.
this trash you gave me.
Good to see you again,
Is
Mary.
this
Yeah.
Mitty? Is this yours?
Oh, good Lord, no, that's yours. That is the rest of the data on the fade.
Oh, awesome, thanks.
Yeah, he had.
Wendy, we should do one together.
Oh, he had all
This
those
is that
pages, and these
huge
are more
binder
pages.
of all of the actual, the data. This is ours. Did you find it?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, are you welcome to take?
What is this?
Yeah, I think you signed earlier.
There's my info.
Thank you.
What is that made of?
Plastic, polypropylene. I mean, it's
Did someone on our island?
completely, I think all of this is
Always fun with the kids.
completely out of
Yeah.
ordinance. These are obviously drink straws. There are some, he picked them
Oh,
up
yeah, I
somewhere.
think
No, he picked them
I'll
up.
take another
He went
one.
into he went into some establishments and started to grab them. Then he found 3 of these,
Oh, yeah.
different variations of plastic.
Worse.